Hi, welcome to this week's streaming session of Masks of Nyarlathotep using the Trail of Cthulhu rules. I'm John, I'll be Game Master, and everybody can just briefly introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about your character. Laura, you want to start?
Sure. Hi, I'm Laura Schnakes. I am playing Margaret Merriweather. She is an alienist, which is a modern-day psychiatrist.
I'm Hugh Delury. I'm playing Declan Steele, a private investigator.
I'm Nate Elwood. I'm playing Father Cecil Sullivan. He is a Jesuit priest.
I'm Tom Ullman. I'm playing Mustafa Ali. He is an antiquarian / college professor. And he lives part-time in Egypt and part-time in Arkham, Massachusetts.
And my name is Brock Close, and I'm not here right now.
Yes. Brock is missing at the moment. He plays a librarian named Dr. Stewart. And
Richard McGuire, and I play a hobo.
all right. And
Also known as Brock Close.
but your character's name is?
Samus.
Very good.
But Rich actually plays a homo in real life, right?
There were a couple of things left over from last time that I want to touch on, but since Brock isn't here to do his assigned recap, let's go ahead and get a die roll for that. I see a lot of sixes.
A lot of sixes.
Laura, you're up.
Oh, man. Okay, so, recap. Let's see what we've got. What do I got here? I got that we started out with Mustafa sending a telegram to try to do business with the Juju House. There was no response to the telegram since he sent it on Sunday. There was a meeting with, what was the name of the lady? At New York at 6 a.m. 229 West 44th Street. What was her name?
Rebecca, who was the reporter at the New York Times.
Right. Rebecca at the New York Times. Then, let's see here. What do we got?
We did the reading of the will.
No, we're not there yet. It goes way down.
Oh.
The reading of the will was on the session 4, wasn't it?
It was.
No, was it?
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm not sure.
No, I had a session 5.
Okay.
Could be.
What's the wild
Chosenberg was Rebecca's last name.
So
It was
then
the
I've
beginning
got
of last session with the reading of the will.
Yeah.
I'm not down that far yet. Then on Monday the 19th at Lenox Avenue, there was the will reading. Carlton Ramsey and the legal secretary, and then Father O'Toole is there as well.
Father O'Toole was mentioned, I believe, as an appointee to take over in the event
in case
the attorney died.
In case something bad happened. Because what could possibly bad could happen? Let's see here. There was some talk about that Jackson wanted his killer to be brought to justice. I think that was in some lettering that he was writing, pointed like that. If you're reading this, I'm dead, kind of a deal.
Exactly.
And left his wealthy inheritance for travel and to investigate the Carl expedition at $50,000. I don't have a clue who Millie is.
Millie is the wife of the accused man who.
I have lovely African American.
Yes, she's an actress at a theater in Harlem.
Okay.
And she was the spouse of the person who had been accused of committing all of the murders that involved
was Teddy? Is that what it, no,
That was a bar.
Oh, God. Yeah.
Hilton Adams, I
Super
think.
paying attention when I was Hilton wanted to clean up the city. He would hang out at the Teddies with organized patrol. There was something about a red ribbon and journal he used to mark a spot in his book. It's significant. It was confiscated by police. There's some questioning about whether there's a cult somehow working in Harlem. Nidham Johnson was a friend of Hilton and mentioned the Juju House. And then once a month, 20 to 30 people go into the shop on the new moon, which is coming up Saturday. I see crates going into the store, police detectives going in during daylight hours from the 14th precinct detectives. A visit to the Juju House. There's African tribal masks in the window. It was cramped. smelled of incense. There was a 70-year-old looking man that was working the counter. Named Silas, I believe.
Yep.
And then he pretty much left the shop, and Mustafa who tried to sneak out and follow him and did a shit job. And then then he invited Mustafa to freaking like
Mission
dinner.
accomplished.
And he got dinner out of it.
And then Dr. Stu and I were we went to the pawn shop next door to try to stake out the Juju shop. And that's pretty much what I have for my notes.
My stealth rolls in D&D never turn out that good. when I
You also
grab on 'em.
are going to have lunch with.
I have that. Yeah, you're right. With Erica Carlisle on. I
21st.
don't have the date here. Wednesday the 21st. I'm meeting with Erica Carlisle and Bradley Gray. I'm not. Margaret is.
And I believe the three of you guys went off and did something separate, right?
We did.
Yeah.
We talked to the friends of Hamilton
Oh, I'm sorry.
and started
No, it's
and
okay.
paid a little bit of money to have people stake out the Juju House for us, since we're
Yeah,
obviously
Needham said he
very
had
conspicuous.
A cousin or a nephew or something that was going to do it.
Well, that's so much better than us.
A couple
right
other
now.
things I wanted to mention. Nate, I think I handed you a calendar for 1925,
You
right?
did, yes.
Just in the unlikely event it's necessary, I happen to print out one for 1926
Just
too.
whatever.
Yeah, just in case you might want to put it with that one. I might be getting ahead of myself, but figure it's
Maybe
better.
I'll be dead before then.
Couple other things I wanted to mention. Tom, you had emailed me in between sessions with a few questions about Mustafa's discussion with Silas.
Yes.
And you had a few leading questions that you had asked him. And I had given you some responses. Do you remember anything about that discussion that you want to bring up?
It is burned into my memory.
And also in my journal that I write.
Basically, he it's not quite unhinged, but he's not very cooperative. What I tried to do was steer him towards subjects that might be of both interest to us and help with the investigation, i.e., hey, I'm from Egypt. I like death too. How do you feel about death?
I like that.
And I brought up the Egyptian Book of the Dead. He was kind of scoffed at it and was not really coherent. I asked him about the crime rate, it was safe to walk the streets. He's like, there's no crime here. I tried to talk to him about the moon. He didn't say anything. He's like, what are you talking about, the moon? Are you crazy? So he was not very helpful at all. Actually, he was, if I didn't know better, I would think that maybe he was suspicious of everybody. But he did ask me to lunch, and he bought me lunch.
So his character's fine with
And
it.
can you tell me if your character has evidence collection?
Yes.
You do. In the course of your discussion, you apparently were looking down his shirt
Okay, that's
over the course of the meal and noticed that he was wearing a key around his neck on a leather thong. Relevant, could possibly be relevant fact. Don't need to spend a point for that, you just noticed it in the course of the meal. And Laura, I think you said Margaret had a couple of questions about that report of Dr. Houston's that you read. Do you want to share those questions?
Alright. Well, I was going to tell this group when we got back anyway, but
I
it's
just
fine.
thought we'd clarify the questions before we got to that stage.
So the questions that I had asked was, so first off, let me explain that Roger Carlisle had been having weird dreams since he was a kid, and they kind of wrote it off as the death of his father, and that his mother was committed into a psychiatric ward and labeled hysterical or incompetent. So it really wasn't all that, it's like, no, that's why he's this, that's why he loves to drink and party, and it's just because he's disregarding all of these things, and his nightmares are all, parent related. But as you dig further in, or as Dr. Huston digs further in, he starts coming up with these constant reoccurring symbols and like and what's the word I'm looking for? Symbols and shapes, I suppose. So one of the things that I wanted to ask about was about the man who was tall, dark, and gaunt, and had an inverted Egyptian ankh on his forehead.
So that's, you asked about that and some of the other things where there were mentions of Nyarlathotep
And the
within that
triangle and the
text.
hand and all that stuff.
Exactly. And I'd have to ask, do you want to spend a point of Cthulhu
Yeah.
Mythos?
Oh, fuck yeah.
All right. Well, if you're going to spend a point of Cthulhu Mythos, then in fact, through the course of your readings, your character has seen the name Nyarlathotep written before.
Okay.
And with a little bit of legwork, you manage to recall and turn up that that is one of the elder gods, or
Outer gods.
outer gods, also known as the crawling chaos,
Right.
and believed to either be a messenger or an incarnation of those outer gods, and that it has, according to legend, 1,000 different faces, all of which may have their own motivations and goals, but also their own manifestations. You also recall that the father of maggots is one of those manifestations.
Oh, fuck yeah, okay. That's useful.
And further, it
Nice to know
triggers
it's
for you that that red dangly bit
Oh yeah,
hanging
right.
off of the
Right.
masks of the cultists,
Mhm.
and possibly also the one that was in Hilton's notebook when you find out about that later,
Okay.
could be a symbol representative of the bloody tongue,
Got it.
which is another one of Nyarlathotep's manifestations.
And none of this is shared to the group yet, right?
Not at this time, but I wanted to get it out in the open. And so it strikes you that Carlisle may have been having dreams of Nyarlathotep.
Oh yeah, I mean, he was straight up having dreams.
Brock, you weaseled out of having to do the recap.
See how that works?
All right. Any other questions then before we dive back into things? Yes.
The key around Silas's neck.
Yes.
I have lockpick
Mm-hmm.
or locksmith.
Yeah.
There's a difference. Was it a fancy skeleton key, or did it look like it was made for a ace lock or a master lock? Or
It looked more like a key for a padlock.
thank you.
Absolutely. Anything else?
I know.
All right. So
I'm not sure how this new die rolls. I don't want to try it.
you guys are still hanging out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Laura and
We're
Dr.
scoping the
Stewart
joint across the
are
street.
hanging out
Freezing
and
to
right
death.
next door to
Ground zero.
Juju House. And you're still at dinner with Silas. And Samus and Declan and the Padre here are finishing up at Teddy's. Did you guys have an agreed upon meeting point for after that?
My apartment.
Yeah.
All right.
Red.
That seems to be like home base.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do
And
we, go ahead.
Oh, and I don't think I can justify myself doing any breaking.
I didn't think so either.
Yeah, looking at my-
no,
thinking about
I
my
didn't think so
pillars.
either. Your pillars are too strong
Yeah,
for that stuff.
I'm kind of a goody goody.
And if you did that, I know Mr. over here would just like make you pay in that
Yeah.
stability if you did.
Yeah.
I have no idea what you're talking
The
about.
faith,
Breaking into that Juju house with like just shattering the window, dragging
well, the
him
faith
in
in
there with
humanity's
me.
goodness. I feel like the guy was nice to us. If he was a jerk, or I mean, but so I'm on the fence because I spent a lot of time this week thinking about that. We think he's a cult and that they're killing homeless people, So there's that.
Mhm.
But that, so on one side, I think I would want to break in because
Yeah.
it helps humanity's goodness. On the other side, I'm not really a break-in and entering kind of guy.
Right.
So that's where I stand at it. So I could probably be convinced if you wanna go that route, but my guy wouldn't be comfortable with it at all.
Right. And I don't really
You
know.
gotta throw in one more thing.
Yeah,
Attractive women tend to make men do stupid things.
that's also very true. Your character's attractive, right?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
she's wicked hot.
That's actually a really good point.
It doesn't matter who you are or your age.
This is a young widowed professor
Yeah.
who has been sad for
I
like
can get that door open.
Reading.
years.
She's just been
I think you
reading
could probably
and
get
learning languages.
a bit of moral flexibility out of him.
It's not like you're stealing from somebody. You know?
Right, yeah.
It's an abandoned house.
These are bad people.
Yeah. So I've
Well,
impressed the lady.
Tell me if you guys want to try and do that.
So let me just ask this, since we're freezing to death in the pawn shop right now.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a lot of, because it's only, you said, I think we started this at like what? How late is it right now?
It's probably about,
It was right before closing, right?
it would close
No,
at
close.
5,
5.
and then you guys went in after that. So it's
Mhm.
probably about 5:15.
But it is winter, so it's dark.
It's winter in the midst of a cold snap.
Okay.
So it's
awful.
it's dark and it's really quite cold.
Yeah.
So when I had gotten a look at the back room,
Mm-hmm.
was there any kind of, like, for where we are, is there any kind of sub basement or basement in this that can maybe get over to their place?
There's
tried
no
that,
basement
remember?
in the
Okay.
pawn
We
shop.
tried
We did
that.
try
That
that,
was the
okay.
whole point of
Mhm.
going in there.
Yeah.
I was hoping for some underground liquor.
Do you want to try and look around the area for like sewage systems that we can get into, like manhole covers, and see if we can get to something down there, or wait till we get to everybody else?
Ew. No.
Okay, fair enough.
I don't think we're at the point of the adventure where we're going down in the sewers.
New
yet.
York sewers.
Maybe not you, but Dr. Stewart and Margaret
Realistically
are on the
speaking, those
case.
sewers would probably be 20 to 30
That'd be
feet down.
so bad.
And
Oh my
They're
gosh.
probably-
coming from a
It's
building
okay.
would only be
It's
maybe
probably warmer,
10-inch
though.
pipe. Yeah,
It's
if you could squeeze into
probably
that,
warmer.
you're a contortionist.
It's
I mean,
probably warmer.
There's probably nobody out here. So why don't we just scope the joint a little bit, just to see if, check doors, see if everything's locked up really well.
So you guys are gonna head outside.
Yeah.
It's probably about 5:15.
Okay.
You duck outside. You check the door. Does anyone have lock picking
Wish I
or
did.
locksmith?
I'm murdered for that right now, but I don't.
Yes.
Locksmith actually is the relevant skill.
Nope.
No,
Um,
not at all.
the
I'm
door.
looking at the key right now to that door.
The door is locked.
Okay, is there a back to this building too, or
So the
side doors?
courtyard
Right.
is kind of would be a back entrance for most places,
Okay,
right?
okay.
Because the other side of the store
You add what you
fronts, I
decide
think,
to
on
spend.
32nd Street. So I mean, it's
I did that.
or 132nd Street. It's a
Spend
major,
0
fairly major thoroughfare, and the pawn shop's front entrance
as
is
many
on
as
that
you
street.
have.
Okay,
But Juju
But
House
you lose
doesn't
those
even have an
for
entrance there.
really?
Yeah, there's just some windows,
Okay.
and they're high up windows.
All right. And so there's no other doors. There's no other entrance, but this back entrance, basically.
Essentially,
No
yeah.
ladders going up to the top of the roof.
Well, it's the first floor of a tenement building, so there are ladders.
Fire escapes.
Yeah,
there is.
there's fire escapes. You have to, climb up to a fire escape, but
All
you
right.
didn't see any evidence that the upper levels of the tenement building were connected to Juju House.
Try to like jump. or
but-
try to.
I'm a solid climber if you want.
I'm not sure what your goal is, though.
to see if there's a way in from the top.
You didn't see any evidence of it when you guys were in
Okay,
Juju
that's
House.
right, because it was all kind of just one.
Mhm.
All right. All right. No, and I don't have like a crowbar or anything.
Well, the front window is glass,
I know.
and the door has glass.
But I think that's gonna push Dr. Stewart a little.
That will leave evidence, also. Yes.
Also, we don't really fit into this neighborhood.
No,
That's
but
very
right
true.
now it's so cold. I don't think there's anybody out and about really.
Most of them been getting killed.
And yeah, and anyone that's around this area seems to be disappearing. But okay, so I think I'm good with
Okay.
with what we didn't discover or didn't discover,
Okay.
and head back to
All right. Was there anything
home base.
you wanted to take care of
Declan's
before you
place.
headed back?
No, I'm gonna thank Silas And I'm going to tell him that I have some more clients to bring by.
Oh, I don't want any more.
No?
No,
more
I have
clients?
all the clients I will ever need.
Okay. You don't like money?
No. Why would I need money?
I don't know.
Nor do I.
Okay.
Are you trying to take what is mine?
No.
Alrighty.
I'm trying to provide you with more money.
Who are you?
Mustafa.
Ah, my very good friend.
Yes.
Okay. He parts ways. He seems to be watching you suspiciously, though.
Well, I'm going to head towards the subway entrance.
All right. Sully, Declan, and Samus, was there anything the three of you wanted to take care of before you head back to the hotel?
How long were we at Teddy's?
Probably about 45 minutes. Since you did sit down, you had sandwiches, you chatted with those guys for a bit.
I hear they can't think of anything else.
You know, you mentioned something interesting about scoping out the subway for where the homeless are staying. That would be a pretty good idea.
It's supposed to be pretty close to where we're at.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, you know, maybe what I'd like to do is, like tonight,
Well, it's already dark.
go back to my apartment. We're technically not too far. Actually, yeah, we are sort of far.
Harlem to Red Hook?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
that's
a
a train ride.
Yeah. Well,
Just leave a note on your door if someone shows up. It's like, went to Red Hook.
yeah.
I mean, we could go back to Columbia University for a little bit, and then, but I don't know what. Honestly, I really don't know what hanging out in the subway is really going to do for us.
Well, maybe somebody down there has seen something going on.
But are they going to talk to us? This is it.
Him
That's right.
and me, maybe. I do have a pretty good disguise.
Tell me about your streetwise.
I have a point.
Okay. Samus, do you have any streetwise?
I'm sure
I have 2 points.
Okay. What is it you're trying to do? Or what are you trying to find out?
Our suspicions is that members of the Juju House are taking homeless to murder them.
Okay.
And so they can't always take everybody they encounter, so maybe somebody has seen somebody doing that. Either the cops are doing it, or members of whoever's hanging out at the Juju House are doing it. Maybe they have information about the Juju House.
Okay.
I think the cops might be providing them with people.
I do.
I'm not there.
It definitely does.
So, yeah, you ask around, and you meet a guy who goes by the name of Tommy.
Tommy?
Tommy. And Tommy kind of looks you up and down and says, I might have heard something, but, you know, my mom's not doing so good, and she really needs some money for medicine.
Alright, I pull out $1.
He's kind of surprised, his eyes widen when he sees a whole dollar. There's this guy. I don't know his name. Looks to be probably mid-30s. Tall. Looks like he's pretty muscular. He's got his head shaved. Seen him going in and out of Juju House. Usually gets there late in the day. Must work a shift somewhere else. See him leaving early in the morning when people are heading to work. A couple of times I've seen him out at night. He's wearing an overcoat, but I saw something glint underneath it. He's carrying this big knife, like big knife. Don't know what it was, some kind of crazy, almost sword type thing. If there's anybody behind this, he might be involved. But Don't tell him you heard it from me. He takes the $1, takes off running.
Do you have assess honesty?
Yes.
You have no reason to think the guy was lying, even as much as he was thrilled to see that kind of money.
Okay.
You think if he was going to lie, he would have kept going longer and hit you up for more.
Okay. Do you have any kind of leads?
Well, I would assume that there's no underground entrance into that building, or they wouldn't be lugging stuff in through the front door.
Yeah.
Other than that, I don't know what to say.
You have a question?
I do, before we meet up, if I have time. Well,
Mhm.
yeah. I would like to talk to Needham Johnson, the reporter from the New York Age. Is he hang out at Teddy's?
He
Was
does hang
there?
out at Teddy's, yeah.
Well, I don't know if you guys talked to him.
We did.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. That's the one who is going to hook us up with his cousin or nephew. I forgot which. That two.
It's hard to not
Not
metagame
metagame.
or
Yeah.
metagame.
Yeah. Well, I think. I mean, I think it's safe to assume that like any time that we meet up back at like the hideout,
We
you
tell
know,
everybody
we
everything.
tell everything
Yeah.
that's
At the
going on.
treehouse.
So metagaming won't be an issue.
I don't think we
Until-
have those since that.
She decides that she's not going to talk to us about what's in that
It's confidential.
I do have one suggestion when we meet is that with part of the money from Mr. Jackson, that we hire a cutting service to get articles. Basically, what they do is they go through all the newspapers, and they cut out relevant articles for stuff, and then they put them in an envelope and mail them to us.
Sure.
That's
What is it
cool.
you're looking for articles on?
Cults,
All right.
Or
death cults, blood cults, asshole cults, cults,
Murders.
yeah.
murder cults,
Yeah.
millennial cults.
I think it's
Nyarlathotep.
very reasonable to say that Kensington House would have a service like that they had probably been taking care of for Jackson, since that
Oh.
is kind of focal to his interest, and they would be perfectly capable of transferring that service to your name,
That's cool.
probably sending it to his attorney, who could then forward it on to you wherever you guys are traveling.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
That's a really good idea.
All right. So I guess that night we all meet up and
Mhm.
discuss
Yeah.
the
You
things
guys
that
wanna
happened on
discuss
that
that?
day.
See
Yeah.
what you let each other know what you choose to share. Unless there's anything else you want to take care of before you meet up. I want to make sure we get all that all the way first. All right, great.
You know, I'm thinking, should I, I'm thinking about using my actual skills as a
Alright.
private investigator
Sure.
to also scope out the Juju House,
Okay.
like tonight.
All right. What time? Are you waiting till you meet up with everybody? Or are you
Yeah,
going to do that on
yeah,
your
this
own
is gonna
first?
be like late.
Okay. Sure.
You know, I figured I have enough of what I need to be able to do that.
Absolutely. We can do that. Why don't we have our little round table first, and then move on to that? Okay.
I'll explain when we went to the Juju House what it looked like, and the peek in the back room, and
Mm-hmm.
all that stuff. And innocently, it seemed like a pretty normal place to me. Nothing seemed really all that amiss.
We divulge the whole meeting with Hamilton's friends and
Yeah,
setting up somebody to kind of scope out the place for us since we're so conspicuous, and also about going into the subways and finding out from a local about a very large bald man who carries a sword.
Well, I'll tell you honestly, there's no way they're fitting 30 people in the little place that we looked at. So I don't know where they're stuffing all those bodies, but they said that they saw like a lot of people. Didn't somebody tell us they saw
Mhm.
Yeah.
like 30 or so people on a full moon or on a new moon go in there?
Yes.
Millie.
Was it like
Millie.
a roach hotel? Did they ever see people come out? That's the other thing.
Yeah, that's
No, she never
we-
stayed. She said she never stayed late enough.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So we don't know
Because
those people.
they always chased her off, or
It's partially why we're trying to have somebody scope it out. Like,
Is the
for a
building
while.
attached to another building?
We talked about this.
It's the first floor of a tenement.
Yeah, and I think across the street is a quite vacant tenement building too.
Well, they're fairly full tenement buildings. The fact of the matter is you can
But what
Always
I'm
get a room.
saying
I
is
gotcha.
there a building physically touching that building?
yes.
it's not on the pawn shop side, so it'd have to be on the other side. Or was there another door in the back room? I don't remember.
You did not see another door. You saw 2 windows,
Yeah.
about like high up windows, like 6 feet high.
And then there were
On the
carpets
wall.
everywhere, so it could have been something underground. But we didn't see another exit on the back of that building. So if people were going in there, I don't know where they
Yeah,
were
it's
going.
not. It's small.
Mhm.
Well, at least from.
Yeah, from what you described, it was half the size of the little area we're sitting in.
Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
Did you talk to Needham Johnson?
Yes.
What do you have to say?
Good question. You?
Wait a second. What do I got?
That was the guy at the bar.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
he just mentioned the Juju House. He
Yeah.
mentioned, I mean, nothing that we.
Nothing that we hadn't heard
Confirming-
already.
Yeah, exactly.
Basically, I mean, once we said that, because we kind of agreed that we would try to help clear Mr. Hamilton, because obviously our friend.
Hilton.
His name was Hamilton.
Hilton.
Hilton
Do
Adams.
whatever you
Okay,
want.
excuse me, Mr. Hilton Adams. Once we, we're taking obviously our friend's death. We want to find out who did it. We're not going to have an innocent guy die for it. This is like the guy who he's a patsy for the cops. Cops are dirty. Is the impression that Father Sullivan has. These cops are dirty. They didn't like what he was doing because he was going to expose something with them, and they used him so that they can kill him in a legal way and alleviate all the.
Do they think that there's any reason other than money that the cops are looking askance at vagrants disappearing?
Well, we are talking about Harlem in the 20s, so just Harlem being Harlem and having mainly black people in it, it doesn't take much for cops to mess with them.
Yeah, you get the distinct impression that the cops hardly consider most of Harlem's residents to even be people.
I know how that feels. Thank you, Great Britain. Oh, you know.
Yes,
You met with Silas. How was he?
He seems to be on the early stages of losing his mind. He did have a key on a thong around his neck, a modern key.
Those cultists the guys that killed our friend had lost their mind. I mean, they were talking gibberish by the time we talked
He's
to
a
them.
70-year-old dude, though.
Yeah.
I mean, he could easily be getting
Just
dementia at
getting
this
dementia,
point.
yeah.
I think that no, he's probably losing his mind like the cultists. I mean, there's no reason why 30 people go into this place. All things are pointing towards this Juju House as
Did
being
I
an
think
epicenter
he
or something.
was deliberately obfuscating, or he was generally confused and old? And
That's an excellent question. Tell me about your assess honesty.
I have a point. I will spend it.
No, you don't need to spend it. It was a good question. You do have the appropriate skill. You think, is probably could use some therapy. You don't think that you don't think he was obfuscating. You think he's off his rocker.
Okay.
And when earlier you said you thought it might be the early stages, the more you reflect on it, you think this could be mid to late stages.
So it's possible that he might not be the driving force behind this.
That seems like a fair assessment. Now, I've got to ask something. You mentioned a person that was somebody at the train station saw. Did you describe this person?
Yes. I think they saw him last night. Tall, bald, black man with a big
and a physique.
Muscular.
Yeah.
There were two cots in the back, right? There were two pads, so
Yeah.
they probably lived there together.
And this is the second time that we've heard of the shaven-headed man with Silas.
It is. Did you mention that? Point that
Well,
out as well?
Yeah.
Because I believe you heard that from someone else, right?
We did.
We heard that from
Miriam Everett.
No.
No.
I think you heard it from Millie.
Yes.
Yes.
With that in mind, Mustafa, do you have evidence collection?
Yep.
Thought you did. That description that you just heard, it rings a bell. You saw somebody who kind of matched that description when you went and visited the importers. I believe that was Gavin Young Imports?
Emerson.
Emerson Imports, sorry. One of the guys that was hauling crates and lifting boxes kind of matched that description.
We haven't actually laid eyes on this guy yet, except for
Well,
this guy.
you're starting to think maybe you did.
But we haven't seen him at the Juju House.
No.
No one has seen him at the Juju House. You've just heard his description a couple of times. And while bald is a common hairstyle now, it was not then.
I'm just picturing that this guy as a Bond villain, honestly, or like Odd Job but African American.
Does he carry around a little cat?
No, I do.
that's a Von
Yeah.
Villain type thing.
That's me.
So that would make
He
him
does
a
have a
villain.
derby hat with a metal brim that he can just fling at people. You know, that description and what we've heard before sounds like a guy that was hauling crates. He was like picking up 2 giant crates in each hand, like this, at Emerson's Imports.
I'd like to assess honesty.
He was huge. He was gigantic.
Interestingly enough, he seems to be telling the truth.
Wow.
Yeah.
Picking up crates, both hands.
Yeah.
Do not want to mess with that guy. Would not want to disturb him while he was sleeping by kicking in the door of the Silas's Juju House.
How many days ago was that meeting?
That was Friday, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. That was the day after.
You still have to go to Sing Sing tomorrow, right? And meet with.
Well, it's today Tuesday. I thought the Wednesday was the Sing Sing thing.
Wednesday's the meeting.
Wednesday.
Okay.
Are we still on Monday? Member
Yeah, we're
service?
doing Monday
Yes.
night. He was talking
Yeah,
about
This is the end of Monday the night.
his late night
Right.
thing.
I'd like to know more about this guy that works for Silas, because Silas. But it doesn't sound like this guy is. From what I remember, he was his head and neck were the same size, and they just kind of merged. And he didn't look like the ringleader. I think there's somebody pushing
Yeah,
the
he had
buttons.
an NFL lineman
Yeah.
physique.
We move on to Tuesday or the next event.
Well, that's your choice. If there's nothing else you guys wanted to discuss Monday night, you had talked about sneaking out in the middle of the night.
I'm thinking about
No neck.
over the next couple nights, you know, disguising myself and just hanging out at a tenement or something.
And I don't
in
want him
front
to
of
go
the Juju
alone,
House.
so I'd probably go with him.
All right. You think you're the best person to go with?
How long till the new moon?
Actually, I do, considering my past. I've had to obfuscate myself before.
All right. Saturday, I believe, is the new moon.
Yes, this Saturday, the 24th.
And so we are currently on Monday night.
So we have 4 days, 5 days. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then Saturday.
Yeah, so I think over the course of the next few days, I'm going to do that.
All right. So
Just
let's.
go about the way.
Monday night, you're heading out there?
Yeah. No one has a problem.
I don't know. Does anyone have a problem with that?
Do you want my hat? It's really cold.
Could I have your stuff?
you don't come back.
Yes.
So let me know what you're taking with you, how you're getting there, and how you're dressing, and what your plan is.
I'm gonna dress kind of like a bum.
All right.
Samus can help.
Wow. How about an Eskimo? You should dress like an Eskimo.
Yeah. I'm gonna take my guns, my 2 pistols,
Mm-hmm.
a camera, notepad for note taking, and maybe like a pick. I don't know if there's pick locks or anything like that. I'll take
Alright.
whatever, like that kind of stuff.
Sure. So what's your preparedness?
1.
All right. So yeah, you want to give me a roll just to see how well you set things up. Tell me if you're spending a point on that.
Yeah.
All right.
4.
Okay. I think you're pretty well prepared. You've got a solid assembly of gear. Sully, you're going with him?
Yeah.
Did you also want to review the equipment that's being taken?
Sure. I mean, all I'm gonna do is basically kind of dress up like a bum, but I'm only gonna bring up two things that comfort me the most: my Bible and a gun.
All right. Are you spending a point?
No.
Okay.
Didn't declare beforehand.
All right.
I got a 5.
Okay. So you guys think you're pretty well prepared. And then humor me. Go, let me get a disguise roll from you. Tell me if you're spending a point.
Spending
and
a point.
Samus, since you know they're trying to dress up like bums, why don't you give me a disguise roll as you authenticate their vision?
I'm sure Alpha like that term.
I got a with
I
the
am
points spent, I
skillless,
got a
by the
5.
way, but I'm sure I can do something. There's a 1.
All right.
You
I got
guys are
6.
great. You're
You
website.
got a 6.
So
Yeah,
the
poop
2
on
twos,
your face.
not too much. Oh no! Jazz hands it while you're down too.
You are confident that no one would ever think that they have any kind of money at all. Yeah, so you guys dressed up and you're wearing a scarf and low-brimmed hats, gloves. Your complexion is pretty well concealed.
Scarf.
Given the weather, yeah. It's not going to be, you're not going to stand out nearly as much as you might have otherwise in Harlem. The caveat being that it's blisteringly cold out there, so anyone dumb enough to stand outside in this weather is going to stand out to a certain extent. And you pick up on that fact really quickly just walking through the streets of Harlem at 2, 3 in the morning. Where are you planning on going to try and keep an eye on the Juju House as you're out and about?
Within a block.
I mean, are you going to go in? Because remember, it's kind of concealed down this little alley, and there's only 2 destinations accessible from that alley.
You take one side, I'll take the other.
Yeah, I mean,
It's a dead end alley, right? It opens up into that little courtyard, and in the courtyard you've got the pawn shop on the left and Juju House on the right.
As long as we can see sort of down the alley, that's
Mhm.
kind of, we're going to see if anybody's moving in and out, if lights are on the first floor, whatever, just to see what kind of activity's going on even at this hour.
All right.
And if anything happens, like I'll rummage through a dumpster or something if someone approaches.
Sure. And you're trying to be sneaky about this, right?
Yes.
So, one of the 2 of you, I don't care which one, give me a stealth roll and tell me if you're spending points.
Yes.
Okay. So you guys think that you're being pretty sneaky, keeping an eye on the place, and you're looking around. Probably stay there from, let's say, probably 2 in the morning till probably about 4 in the morning. Figure that pretty much covers the range of things that would happen in the middle of the night, right?
Yeah.
And you don't see any significant activity. You do hear some noises coming from inside, though, and there are lights on inside of the Juju House. Do you want to get close enough to check that out?
I got your back.
Yes,
You're
You
much
do.
more suited for that than
I
I
do.
Okay. How close do you want to get? Because you first off, do you want to go into the courtyard area of the
How visible am I if I go into the courtyard?
So, it's an open courtyard. It's brick paved. There's a few garbage cans back there. Little refuse. There's definitely mounds of snow, so footprints are fairly obvious. It's a few days away from the new moon right now, so there isn't a ton of moonlight. Actually, it's crappy weather. It's cloud cover. There's not a lot of light back there. It's pretty darn dark.
I don't really care about the footprints. I mean, that could be from anybody
Sure.
walking in there. If it's not snowing, it hasn't snowed for days. I mean, that could be anybody's.
It's
fine
snow.
about
There's snow pretty regularly.
that. Okay. Well, yeah, I'll get up as close. I'll get close.
All right.
I wanna hear certainly what's going on.
Okay. You actually have to get pretty close to hear exactly, because you hear some mumbling. As you get closer, though, you do hear what sounds like people praying.
So
But
like
it's-
repetitive.
Repetitive and kind of rhythmic chanting. You hear two voices joined in this prayer, or possibly recitation of poetry, or like chant, creed. Yeah.
Okay.
What languages do you know?
Haven't selected
All
yet.
right.
He knows Swahili.
I do. It's the only one I've selected so far.
Probably one of those is going to be a European one, though. So if it's not going to be a European one, then it will not be
It
assessed
is
for my
definitely not a European language. Your guess would be that it is an African tribal tongue, which is hardly surprising, it being an African importer. But that's your guess
Okay.
based on the vocalizations and intonations, not something that sounds remotely European. Your guess is that. And it's kind of rhythmic, and you could kind of hear it mumbled from when you were out further, and as you got closer, it became louder, and you realize, as you're listening, that you hear a sound of a drum beat underneath it.
Okay. So it, like all the accents are played by the drum beat.
Yeah,
Okay.
and you think like somebody playing like little hand drums.
Okay.
Okay, Indiana Jones, the Temple from Temple of Doom.
Kinda, yeah.
I can bring that up if you want it.
No. I don't think that'll be necessary, but thank you.
I see a flaming heart thrown out the window.
And you realize that the light source coming from behind the window, you said there's the window display, and then there's a curtain behind it. From the way the light is, you think it's probably at least 2 or 3 candles flickering. You don't think it's an electric light source.
Okay.
And as you're sitting there, as you crawled up there, you look around. Do you want to spend actually, give me a sense trouble roll. That's probably better, and tell me if you want to spend points on it.
Yeah, sure. 7.
Nice.
Oh, excellent. As you're sitting there, looking around, you look up, and there's a guy sitting on that fire escape, right up there, watching you.
Shit. Okay. Is there a garbage can near me?
Several.
I want to just now I'm playing the actor.
Mm-hmm.
Gonna be just sort of limp from garbage can to garbage can, just looking and stuff, trying to find something. And honestly, if I find something that looks even the slightest bit edible, I will eat it.
Excellent.
To play the part.
Yeah, sure. You managed to find some a few moldy bits of something that is frozen just about solid.
Pedicine?
Yeah. I think when I face outside of the alleyway,
Mhm.
I know that he's been watching me from out there.
Yeah.
I'm gonna use probably something that we've used when training for the
Mhm.
military.
Yeah.
That says I'm being watched, but without being that obvious.
Yeah, I get it.
Like
I got it. Yeah, you got some
Gestures
kind of a
that-
subtle hand
yeah.
sign.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
so he knows that we need to start heading away.
All right.
guys head out.
I don't know about that.
Art, do you?
Hmm?
Well, I assumed you headed out because you said you were heading
if
away.
you're
What do
pointing up to somebody, maybe it's time we talk about something. I mean, there's only a couple of reasons why you'd be out at this time of night.
Yeah, I mean, so they were on the fire escape of the same tenement building that the store is on, or?
One of the other tenement buildings.
Okay.
See if we can get around behind you.
Yeah.
All right.
We're gonna try to get behind them.
Mm-hmm.
I'll make my way out, but I'll keep an eye if I can, and we'll try to get behind them.
How about this? You stay on this side. Well, where's the fire escape come down? In front or back?
It comes down on the same side as, so it's a square court, right, with the alley coming out, and he is up on the side closer to the pawn shop, out 4 floors up.
You watching from this side? I'm gonna try to get around behind.
So you're going to go into the tenement building,
Mhm.
go up to the 4th floor, or try to get up to the roof and
Yeah.
go down that way?
Yeah.
Okay.
That way, if it runs one way,
Yeah, I'll block
That's
the
good.
alley entrance.
All right. Excellent. So,
I'm taking a bath right now. So
yeah, I know.
I'll
You're
have lunch.
enjoying the warmth of Red Hook, as it were.
excellent strategy. So,
in the hotel, nice and warm.
so you guys, you're
I'm looking for something else.
you're waiting in the alley, essentially, right? And you're heading into this other building. So you came out of the alley and just kind of ducked down and hid.
Yeah,
I'm
pretty
assuming.
much like turn a corner.
Is there some way you're trying to coordinate things, or do you? I mean, you don't have a communications means. You don't
No.
have radios, and it
Mhm.
takes a little while for you to get around and get up 5 floors, essentially.
Basically, it was basically you watch him if he, in my mind, if he runs down the fire escape, then he'd be there to
He's your
do
problem.
something. Right.
If he runs up the fire escape, he's your problem.
That's pretty much it. Yeah.
And I can see too that if he runs up the fire escape, then he may have been spotted, and then I'll run up the fire
And
escape
Sure.
as backup. So
And if either of us hears gunfire, then we know there's somebody, the other person's in trouble.
Things have gone south.
Yeah,
So-
something bad has happened.
It's the sign.
All right. Thank you for clarifying that. Because what's going to happen is you're going to head around. You're going to start climbing up the stairs. You headed down the alley, kind of ducked down. About 3-4 minutes after you hit the alley, you hear some movement on the fire escape.
Pete, is he heading down?
He's coming down.
Okay, I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna wait for him to turn the corner.
He's coming down the alley. Go ahead and, well, let's see if he sees you. Okay. And he comes down the alley, and he sees you. He pulls out a knife.
I pull out a
About
gun.
yay big machete style knife. All right. He comes charging towards you.
Holy
And you
moly.
see he's got a white headband on with a red cord dangling down it. Exactly like the killers of Jackson's killers. And he's charging towards you.
Okay.
Bang.
Yeah.
That's the signal.
All right, I'll shoot.
All right. Go ahead. Spending a point.
Yep. I'll go for you,
Well, we're gonna get use your part, man.
yeah. Here we go. 5.
Oh yeah, you totally. Well, actually, yeah, you totally hit.
Okay.
Give me a damage roll. This is going to be. I mean, he's charging you with a knife,
Throw a knife to a gunfight.
so yeah.
Okay.
It's short range. Go ahead and add +3 to the damage.
9.
All right. He comes charging down. It's 3 a.m. Harlem Alley. You pull out a pistol and cap it.
Okay.
Shot right in the middle of the forehead. Back of the brain blows out, and he collapses to the ground.
Okay.
Probably not gonna get any info out of him now.
No.
What are you doing immediately?
Yeah,
You heard the
seance.
gunshot. What are you doing immediately? I'm going to ask both of you.
Immediately?
Yeah.
I am going to quicken my pace to get back down because I know.
So you're going to
I know where he's at already. Yes.
What are you doing?
Other than taking a deep breath and trying to collect my nerves, I've entered like
like soldier mode right now.
All right.
So
Medicaid.
you start thinking,
Yeah.
you start booking down the steps, and immediately a gunshot just went off in an alley surrounded by tenement buildings. Lights start popping on in apartment windows,
Okay. I'm gonna grab the
including
knife.
Juju House,
I'm gonna grab the knife and I'm gonna grab the hat,
the headband.
the headband.
Uh-huh.
Anything?
The headband has an awful lot of blood on it right now.
That's okay.
Okay.
It's not mine.
And what about anything? I mean, I'm just gonna quickly rummage through the guy's pockets and sort of like egg and make my way back to where he went towards, so we
Okay.
can meet up and.
So that's going
start
to take some
pro-
time.
Yeah. I mean, I want to be quick about it. I'm like.
I understand that, but even the best case scenario, that's going to take a few minutes.
Okay.
So you're going to get down to the street level because you were about halfway up when all this started.
Mhm.
You're going to get down to the street level. You're going through the body. Door to Juju House opens. You see, you see a very large man holding a very big knife.
An even bigger knife.
Stepping out, he's barefoot. It's probably 3 degrees out. He's wearing just a pair of jeans, bare-chested. This guy is enormous. Bald head, big honking knife.
That wasn't the big knife. This is the big knife.
Yeah.
This is where you need to go online.
And he's looking out. He just came out of a brightly lit room. There is light coming out from here. There's light coming from windows. You're still in the shadows at ground level, but you are hunched over a body. You're pretty sure he sees your form, but there's no way he could identify you at the moment. What are you doing?
Whatever I have gathered, whatever it was, I pocket it and I'm gonna start to run.
You're going to take off running, okay. You hear he lets out a bellow, and you see windows starting to pop open, and people are looking out the windows and shouting as well.
Okay.
You hear some shouts for police.
Okay. So I'll start fleeing. I don't know.
All right. The beauty of this is there is a fleeing skill.
Yep.
And I have it.
All right, let's see that roll and tell me if you're spending points.
Yes.
I have a 10 in fleeing.
Do you? Shoot, I need to up that. You don't have it?
Okay, here we
Oh,
go.
the shiver needed to flee from
How many points were you spending?
2, so
All
I
right.
got a 4.
All right. Okay. You take off running, and you did not think a man that large could move that fast, barefoot through the snow. Because he comes sprinting towards you and takes a swing at your back.
Holy moly. Alright.
This will be scuffling against his. Give me a scuffling against his weapons roll.
Okay.
You want to spend points here?
Yeah. I have a lot, so.
All right.
What are you spending?
3. 8.
All right. His sword comes chopping down, and you're able to just slide out of the way. But he did hook your scarf and slice the scarf in 2, and so it's falling down off of your face. But you're still running away, and now you hear the sounds of whistles, and you think a couple of beat cops are probably running this way.
Shit.
Keeping in mind, you're a white guy being chased by a large black man with a huge knife in Harlem. Though you do have a gun that was just fired, probably have some powder burns on. Well, you're wearing gloves, but still powder burns on your glove.
Okay.
And there's a dead body back there with a bullet in the forehead.
Wasn't me.
Self-defense, man.
Yeah.
Stand your ground.
Alright.
Oh, wait, it's not for another 60 years.
Well,
And
I'm
it's
gonna
Florida.
run. I'm gonna keep running. I guess I'm gonna run towards the whistle though.
All right.
I think I am gonna do that.
All right. Give me another fleeing roll.
Dennis Rodman defense. Those girls just fell out of the ceiling.
And tell me if you're spending points.
I am. My last point. Damn it. 3.
All right.
About this time, you come around the corner and you see Declan running, and you see this huge dude with an even bigger knife chasing him. He's bare-chested, barefoot, and he looks furious, and he's bellowing at the top of his lungs. Lights have been coming on all over the place, and you do hear the police whistles coming.
Is this guy catching up to him?
Oh, yeah.
This is again where I'm going to do something stupid.
Awesome. I love stupid.
I love when Cecil does stupid stuff. Alright, so I am going to... He's obviously focused on him.
Yeah.
So a sideward hit to get him focused that way, and me going that way type of thing. I want to hit him like a linebacker
All
and
right.
then run away.
All right. Awesome. Give me a...
First, you do like.
We're going to do 2 rolls here. First thing I want to have you do is give me a stealth roll to see if he hears you coming.
Okay. I don't
Because...
think I have it still.
All right.
Alright, so I got a 6 on that roll.
All right.
Look at that.
All right. You're pretty sure you got the drop on him. So this is going to be a scuffling against... It's going to be a straight up scuffling. He's just going to get to use his attribute to oppose it.
Alright, so I'll spend 2 points in this scuffling.
All right.
I think we've actually only done one thing together. Totally.
All right.
Yeah,
I would give
we've
me
done
a
a
grand
fantastic
total
job of splitting the party.
Of 3.
3. All right. You slam into him with all your might, and you're wiry, right?
Yeah.
No question about it. And you bounce off.
Okay. Mission accomplished.
But it does give you a couple of seconds, and he's not able to get a swing in on you.
Because he's laughing too hard.
And he's so surprised by your hit that he's not able to get a swing in on you. You said you were going to take off running the opposite direction.
I'm ballsy, just not stupid.
Yeah, so go ahead and give me a fleeing roll as well.
Alright. Well, I've never used fleeing before. So.
And tell me if you're spending points.
Oh, yeah.
You don't have to be able to run
Large man
fastest.
with a knife.
Just faster than the slowest.
Exactly.
Just have to run faster than him.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm right.
7.
All right. Go ahead and give me one more fleeing roll. Tell me if you're spending points.
I'm out of points.
All right. Excellent.
Here we go. Come on.
This couldn't end badly.
All right, 5.
All right. So the two of you slammed into him and realized, wow,
Yeah.
right? And then just booked, and you heard some footsteps. You didn't even look over your shoulder. You just said, I'm going to go faster now. And he heard the whistles, looked around, and he let out an angry bellow at the top of his lungs and cursed. You're pretty just based on the tone of voice in a language that you don't understand. I'm assuming what language. I think I know what languages you know.
Latin, Greek,
Yeah.
Gaelic, and Spanish.
You also do not recognize anything but ire in that voice.
The intent, yeah.
Yeah. And you don't hear anyone else chasing you. So you do
That
hear.
doesn't mean we stop running.
Yeah.
First rule of fleeing.
Don't stop.
Don't stop running.
Don't stop believing. So I'm gonna guess you guys head back to the apartment.
Oh, that's enough for tonight, man.
I think at this point we should stay together from now on. Tom brings up a really good point. Yeah.
Oh, I was just saying.
Do you wanna? Are you gonna discuss this the next morning over coffee?
It's
Well,
not hard.
you were at a hotel though, not at the apartment.
I really like
Oh, no,
that
we are.
song.
I got to tell by their apartment.
Okay.
So you
Okay.
can. I mean, you can get me. I'm real. It won't take me long to get dressed and come over here. Or you can meet in the lobby of the hotel and talk if you guys want.
Or you can just wait till the morning, though.
Or we wait till morning.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably,
You're
I'll
probably
get back
gonna-
there 5:30 in the morning, and then I'm going to
Probably.
want to take a bath and, like, not do-
Warm up and
Yeah.
have a
Change
couple of
your-
Wash
shots.
the piss
Change
out of
your
your
underwear.
pants.
Yeah, pretty much. Empty my pockets of whatever I was able to grab.
Did you take the knife?
I did.
All right.
In the headband.
And the
And the
headband.
headband.
Covered in blood.
Those are the two things that I
Yeah.
explicitly
Just
said I
bring
was
it
going
out.
to take.
Yeah. So the knife, when I'm assuming you guys get together.
We'll have breakfast, right?
Yeah,
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 we've-
I mean,
You
Everything
all-
that just happened, we have just said to you guys.
You all
Yeah.
recognize the
All
bloodstained
of that.
headband as matching up with the headbands that Jackson's killers wore. And you recognize the knife as being very similar to the knives that Jackson's killers wielded. And that knife is a African tribal style knife.
Did we ever figure out what tribe those guys were from?
Something
Don't-
with an M, I thought. Or no,
No, I
that
don't-
was the tribe that the people who were accused of killing Carlisle.
Yeah. So we don't really know who this tribe is
Maasai.
yet.
I believe that was
And that was the
Silas's
garb what you was
tribe.
wearing too. Was the Maasai tribe stuff. And the blanket that you saw.
Yes.
Was from that. So possibly.
and I want to make sure I've got the right word.
Is it a scimitar or a kukri? Or
It's I think it's a kukri actually.
I have one of those. I could have brought.
go get it.
I have an old tribal kukri.
It's not something you normally carry around.
No, it's just at my house. So I've got all sorts of weird stuff.
I thought it was like, I'll get it out of my car.
EDC.
No. Somebody traded it to me at a flea market, but I have an old African kukri.
Big old, looks almost like a machete, but it's a little more curved.
Yeah, it's
that's
curved.
exactly what
Yeah.
it is.
Works really well at decapitating things.
In a pinch.
Well, that's what all the movies have. So.
All right.
Movies always completely accurate.
What day is this? Tuesday now, or are we
That's
on
what the Gurkhas
Wednesday
do.
morning?
Tuesday morning.
Tuesday morning.
Yep. Yeah. That's what he's carrying.
Kind of like this.
Kind of exactly like that. Yeah.
So which one? 20.
Interesting.
Well,
There was one at the Cleveland Museum of Art that was like that.
Okay.
I think it's pretty safe to assume that the Juju House is definitely the place of interest.
I just don't know where they all could have been.
There's only one man I saw. Well, two, technically.
There were two in that.
You
in the,
killed one, and then the giant came after you.
So,
Well, there were two people chanting.
the same people who killed Jackson are there,
Okay.
or affiliated with them in some way.
Okay. So, I mean, is this enough? This isn't enough evidence to take back to the police, obviously.
I don't
They
think going to the
find
police
out-
would
Oh, they're
help.
going out.
I think they have the police under their heel.
Yeah.
Whether there
definitely.
is enough evidence to do this, maybe.
Convict me of murder, considering I have the hat of the victim.
So,
I was thinking more along the lines of
do we recognize the hat? The
artisan.
headband? Yeah.
You recognize it as the same as the one that was worn.
Did we ever look to see what kind of tribe that was from?
I don't believe anyone has looked into that question.
Can I look into that?
You absolutely can look into that. Tell me about your Cthulhu Mythos skill.
Not having that.
You don't recognize it. In
Good
fact,
oral-
you
oral
do some
history.
fairly extensive search into tribal information, and you can't find any tribal associations with it.
Weird.
Any markings on that knife?
That is an excellent question. It is a wooden handle, and you would think that it might have had some interesting inlays or carvings, but it is not. It is simply functional over form.
I mean, it's. I would imagine it's also like handy in the field or chopping stalks of bananas down or bringing in sheaves. It's a utilitarian kind of.
I know I said it was a kukri. It is in fact called a panga. My bad. They're fairly similar.
What's the symbol look like on the headband?
It looks exactly like the one that was carved
okay.
into.
The weird.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, like the two
Yeah.
parentheses with an asterisk in the
Yeah.
middle. Yeah.
Well, Tuesday. So we know that's where they're at.
Yes. Now we just have to figure out what we're going to do about it.
And they know someone knows where they're at.
We can't go to the police with it because they own the
Or
police.
confusing at least.
Yeah. Do you want to talk to this guy in jail and see what he has first? And then. And I don't think we should split anymore. Let's just go as a group.
I need to go research some stuff. It'll be boring for everybody.
Do you want. We'll all meet up right before Sing Sing and go to Sing Sing together?
I don't know if they would let the whole Scooby-Doo gang talk to.
They would definitely let
The
Cecil
premise that I'm
in.
using
Yeah.
is that
They would
well, back in
definitely let-
Cleveland, I have a halfway house for vets that are suffering from shell shock, and the premise that I use is perhaps him being a vet, he may have been driven to these horrific things
Yeah.
because of that.
I wanted to go to the.
I could probably bring a good doctor with me as a good cover, but you could.
I could go.
Oh yeah, he's got a doctorate.
Yeah, and I've got psychoanalysis too.
You could probably also bring the private investigator who might be doing some research into the case. But
Yeah.
I think the people that would probably be out of place though would be, unfortunately, Samus and you.
Well,
I just don't know how long it's going to take Margaret to go research
I don't know if at that time
I
they would
wanted to
allow
go
a woman
to
into a
the-
male jail.
IV.
probably
and-
not easily.
I wanted to
Though
go
she
to
does
the,
have, as a physician,
physician,
her
yeah.
credentials would get her in.
I wanted to go to the New York Public Library. Where are you going to do research?
Oh, that would be fine. I think that would. I can get newspaper clippings from the microfiche system. If they have that. I don't know, whatever they use.
I
in the
don't know
20s.
that they had a
They
real
don't
good
have that much tech.
microfiche.
They still don't
yeah.
have it. Whatever. There's got to be newspapers.
There
and
would
stuff,
definitely
right?
be newspapers.
Actually,
Okay, great.
I want to look up an old acquaintance of mine
Uh-huh.
who just hangs out at the New York Public Library
Uh-huh.
and researches stuff for his weird books all day long.
All right.
But
What is it?
we also have a cutting service now, so if there's newspaper articles that you want,
Yeah, but I don't want to wait.
we'll
I
just
have,
see.
I have a meeting on Wednesday. I don't have time to wait for something to get delivered.
We could call them.
All right. So the two of you are heading to the library to do some research. Samus, what are you doing?
We'll have this argument in the nice
I'm
warm
not sure.
cab.
I'm not sure there's anything that I could do that probably would not get me killed.
And why? And you're restricting yourself to that?
Well, self-preservation I think should be a motivation.
I think that's fair.
And, going to the coffee shop or bar and telling those guys about what happened last night's probably not a good idea.
I was going to actually suggest that for
Or-
you.
yeah, but I don't. But it would bring attention to them, wouldn't it? If I keep going back there.
You'll probably get a hold of the newspaper lady and use her as a liaison. That might not bring as much attention.
And should I mention to them that the pawn shop's empty,
Next door.
available as a spot to stake out?
Any information helps.
Yeah, I could go to the newspaper lady and see if she is interested in delivering messages. Probably.
If that will be useful, I'm happy to help out. What do you need me to deliver?
The crow flies at midnight.
So what was the name of the contact at the? Was it not Millie's bar, but
No,
Teddy's.
Teddy's.
Or Teddy's Saloon.
Needham Johnson was the guy we
Mhm.
talked to.
okay. So I'll give her the name of the contact, Mr. Johnson, at.
Wait, do you want me to go into a saloon in Harlem?
Millie, talk to Millie. Do the
Talk to
telephone.
Millie.
Her, Millie, them.
Okay.
I don't think Millie wants to visit with Hilton's friends.
Yeah, I don't think so either. She didn't seem like she wanted to go into the bar.
She was kind of mad at them.
So it's either send the reporter in or I go in.
Yeah, one of the two. It was just a suggestion.
If you want anything done right, you're gonna have to die.
All right. So you're gonna head down to Teddy's.
Is that a motto?
Yeah.
All right.
Right.
Can you, as you're heading down there, are you doing anything? Are you doing anything to try and be more inconspicuous?
Yeah, I do have stealth.
Go ahead and give me that.
I
roll.
know
Tell
how
me
to.
if
I
you're
know how to
spending
be
any
a
points.
street. I know how to be a street bum.
Tell me if you're spending any points on that.
I do that really well.
I do have 3 points of stealth. I'll spend 2. This seems like an important thing.
All right.
Usually things don't seem that important. If I have an arm chopped off, it's not so bad. I got an 8
All right.
or a 7. I spent 2 points,
All right.
not 3.
You're pretty sure that you are being very inconspicuous as you make your way there. You're fairly confident that you didn't pick up any kind of tail. And the message you're passing on is just the pawn shop's available.
Yep.
And
The encounter with the
oh, and you're going to tell them that
about the large.
about the crazed man with a knife and oh yeah, one of my buddies gunned down a cultist
Nope.
there.
I wasn't going to mention.
Okay.
Those were the only 2 things.
All right. Nothing about your buddy gunning anybody down.
That's right.
All right.
Oh, I wasn't there, so I didn't actually see it.
Sure. All right. They're very interested to learn this. So, one of your friends decided it was a good idea to go walking around that alleyway in the middle of the night?
Well, it wasn't my idea. But we do know that the pawn shop's available. It's empty. It should be a safe place as long as you get in and out without being seen.
Folks have more balls than brains, you know that?
Well, I asked for his stuff in case he didn't come back.
Am I going to share that?
Yeah, sure.
All right. Because, you know, my cousin needs to get paid for this watching.
Yeah.
I want to make sure he gets
Well,
the rest of the money.
He has an apartment here in New York.
All right.
Oh, exactly.
Good
where I
deal.
live.
What's the
Yeah,
address?
Here's his key.
His address should be on the business card he handed to me.
Are you putting hobo symbols on the door so people know that they can get a handout? Like, kind of like Gandalf did?
Your place is totally wiped out when you get back.
Excellent. All right. Nothing further of interest happens, but that's, you probably get a meal out of it too. Have a decent discussion with them there. They start to take to you. You feel like you're developing a good rapport with them in there. Margaret and Alexander.
Wait. You were coming to the library?
No, I'm sorry. Margaret and Mustafa were going to the library. What were you guys planning on researching?
So Margaret's gonna research anything that she could find on Dr. Hudson.
Houston?
The name, the initials. I like try to ruminate over what I.B.
Okay.
Find the name or some kind of affiliation with that.
All right.
And also anything she can find on Erica Carlisle, just so when she meets her, it's not like she's completely clueless. So she's not coming in all
Sure.
suspicious. I mean, she's already coming in suspicious, so maybe something to.
All right. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, library use. You have that skill?
Mm-hmm. I have 4 points.
Awesome. So, yeah, you're able to dig around quite a bit.
When we're on the way, I need to ask Margaret something.
Please.
Margaret,
What?
I know you don't want to tell anyone what you read in the file.
Right. It's confidential notes on a session between.
And
Austin
I
and-
respect that. Do any of these names look familiar to you?
And you're like handing this to me instead of just saying the names because you don't want the taxi driver to hear us or what?
No. These are names that should maybe not be spoken
Gotcha.
aloud.
But you're speaking them aloud?
Although, in 1920, I'm not saying them aloud. I'm handing you a note. Also, in 1925, or in 2019, most of the taxi drivers are probably Egyptian. But in
I thought in 2019 they were mostly like physics professors.
Or Uber. So
Yeah,
it could be
2019
anything.
they are, yeah.
Could be anything. How do you say this one? Nyarlathotep?
It doesn't really matter how you pronounce it, it's that you say it loudly.
You have to say it 3 times. Like
I said that. I was like, I don't think I want to do that. Ever.
Plaster.
Yeah. Something just looks familiar. But I want to make sure before. Let me just run over to John real quick.
That
I
is.
think it's just poor spelling, as always, but that one would ring a bell, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
Thought so.
that's definitely could be a phonetic variation.
Yeah, it's spelled wrong.
Mhm.
Sure. Yeah. One thing on here does. It's spelled wrong though.
Would you underline?
Do you want? I mean, is this like?
Yeah.
Is this like from? I don't want to underline something that belongs to John. It's
Oh,
hand
no,
out
go
that's
ahead.
that's ours.
with a pencil, so it'll erase it. I'll just circle that then. Spelling was wrong.
Need that pencil back.
No,
There we go.
I love pencils.
Thank you.
All right.
That was what was on the inscription in the tiny sarcophagus that we
Oh,
found.
you know, I totally forgot about that. That is what we found back at the Myron estate, right?
The shanty that we burned down.
Well, yeah, but it was the Myron estate, if I
Yes.
remember correctly. That name or just that?
This whole thing. This is what was written.
Inside of it?
Correct.
Okay. The spelling is wrong though.
So, the big thing you just recounted for me that you were looking for was the initials IB.
Right,
Correct.
anything that would, and I know that would be in relation with Dr. Huston.
So, going through the social
Yeah.
write-ups as
Dig.
well as the obituaries,
Mm-hmm.
you find that on December 3rd of 1918, a young woman named Imelda, Imelda,
Right, and
Bosch, Bosch, committed suicide. And she was listed as the very good friend of Dr. Houston.
Motherfucker killed her. Okay.
And there was some scandal involved.
Was it his patient? Any way that I could find that?
It was-
probably not, right? It's probably hush covered up.
Initially, she had been his patient,
Okay.
but she wasn't any longer.
It's unethical.
Yes, it would be very unethical for her to continue to be his patient.
You don't know this guy.
I don't even know of this guy.
I think you do, because he was on the expedition, so you recognize
Yes.
the name from the
Okay.
expedition.
And was there another question you had that you wanted to
Oh,
to
just
research?
just to look up anything on Erica Carlisle, just to see, because
That's
I'm
right.
certain that she had to take over everything after her brother, after his disappearance.
Yes,
So I'm just
she
curious
did.
onto how the estate, because they know they were very wealthy. So are
So
they
you
falling
actually
apart? Are
do
they,
a little bit of looking into the papers
Mhm.
and the stock values of Carlyle's funds. And what you find is that it had been a very successful organization up until their parents died.
right? Okay.
And when Roger took over,
Mm-hmm.
he pretty much tanked
Worse.
things.
Yeah, but it got worse.
Right? Because he was just squandering money. After he left for his expedition and Erica took over,
Mhm.
things started to improve
Yes,
dramatically and have continued to do well under her oversight. She is not the social butterfly
Right.
that her brother was, and in fact, she seems to prefer maintaining some degree of privacy, and she's also not very active, and she has Bradley Gray, her attorney,
That explains it. Okay.
handle most press matters.
Okay.
All right. Mustafa, there were a couple of things you wanted to research at the library?
I wanted to try to investigate the tribe that Silas might be associated with.
So, you didn't get a straight answer from him about what tribe he belonged to. He did indicate that he was not.
He did mention Cuba when we were talking.
He
Also,
did. He did mention that he was not a member of the tribe that usually wore the garments that he was wearing, and that he had just been wearing it in order to keep up appearances. Samus, before I forget, when you were talking with Needham, he mentioned that they had seen a man duck out of Juju House that day.
Monday afternoon?
Actually, Tuesday morning, prior to your meeting, and Needham's family member that was keeping watch stopped back to let you know. He's pretty sure it was a police detective dressed in a suit, and he saw him tucking a bulging envelope into a jacket pocket as he was leaving. You're not quite sure. You're not able to turn up what tribe you think he belongs to, but your guess, based on the knives that they were using, is that it was probably something out of Nairobi.
I also will be scanning the reference area and there's a guy. Are you familiar with Charles Fort?
Mm-hmm. I absolutely am.
I'm gonna kind of keep an eye out for somebody like that just lives there, and his fingers or hers could be like stained with newsprints. Somebody that might have read something about strange cults in New York.
You can certainly find several people who you're pretty sure treat the library as a second home or possibly a primary home, going through the archives. But finding someone who specializes in cults.
Dare I say Fortean knowledge?
That's a little more esoteric. Tell me what you're looking for in this regard, and
I'd like to know when these New Moon murders started. Also, I want to know if there's any kind of superstitions that we might be able to take advantage of. That's why I want to know what cult he was from, or tribe. But it almost kind of seems like they're borrowing from other cultures to kind of fit their needs to murder and chew up people.
So you're able to turn up a lot of legends and myths about the new moon and sacrifices being made during it. Some are African in origins, but there's legends from a wide variety of cultures. A lot of them, suggesting that if appropriate sacrifice isn't made, the moon won't return.
Right, and this, I mean, I have a degree in archaeology,
Yeah,
so I know
you're
all this.
familiar with these.
Yeah, nothing here.
Nothing that gives you
Speaks-
pause. Yeah.
Like we could throw some holy water on these people and make them very unhappy. That's the kind of stuff I'm looking for.
It's cold out, so.
Just melt that snow and just have Father Cecil pray, and we're good to
You're
go.
not, without knowing more about whatever cult this is and their beliefs.
Yeah, they don't have a sign outside.
No, they don't. And I don't believe you have Cthulhu Mythos.
Unlike that.
Yeah,
So,
I do.
oh, you do have a point of Cthulhu Mythos? Do you want to spend that point of Cthulhu Mythos? Or do you want to save
Not
it
for
for later?
these jugheads.
Alright.
It seems pretty cut and dry, but I want to give this stuff a once over.
Okay.
See if I can find anything about this.
Honestly,
There's nothing that you're sure about.
No, it's pretty cut and dry. If we hang out long enough.
to be honest, if it wasn't for Hilton Adams being on the hook for a friend's death, so there's that innocent man there that I would definitely want to help. If it wasn't for that, I would firebomb this place.
Yeah. I would like to see Silas and Kay, swing for this and his bodyguard. But while we're out, I'm also going to buy a sword cane. So
I thought you
Awesome.
did that already.
No, he wanted to buy one at
No.
Juju House, but
it was
that's
Sunday.
right.
It was Sunday. I couldn't get one on Sunday.
sure, you absolutely acquire a sword cane.
God.
What metal are you having the blade made of?
Well, I don't think this is like water deep where I can pay somebody to forge this for me while
You
I
can't
wait.
have it forged, but you could probably be a little selective about what you purchase.
I would like to get a damask blade.
Okay, so you're looking for a finely
Yes.
made steel blade.
Yes.
Okay.
Silver.
Not a cheap party store sword game, but like a really nice one.
But one that's really intended to kill somebody.
Yes.
All right, awesome.
One that's gonna do 1d6 plus 1 damage to some mofo.
All right. So we took care of your research. Was there anything else you guys had wanted to ask about before I move on to?
I'm good.
All right. So, in that case, can we move on to our trip to
Sing Sing.
visit old Sparky's house? So, in Sing Sing prison, there's actually a separate building for death row, where the people who are sentenced to death are imprisoned, and that's referred to as Old Sparky's house because the electric chair at Sing Sing is Old Sparky.
I just want you guys to know, the minute we walk in here, I get real, uncomfortable. Like, bars and criminals and, all this just weirds me out. I only say that because in real life, I had to do a sales call in prison once. It was the scariest freaking thing in my life. I was, sweating and nervous and couldn't talk to the guy.
I do it every day.
Yeah. Is that your job?
We'll talk about it.
Yeah. Couldn't do it.
All right. So you head in, and you go through the ID check, and you are met by George Brunner. He's the sub-warden who is in charge of Old Sparky's house. And you guys aren't carrying anything, are you?
No, sir.
Just a good book, sir.
All right. Who are these guys you're bringing with you, Father?
I have a revolver that I actually put down,
You probably had to check that at the actual entrance to Sing Sing before you even got to. Yeah.
Well, I got this gun.
Thanks
Here's
for
this
asking.
knife.
I'm so glad you asked.
open
I
my
forgot.
coat, got daggers, and
What should I do with the grenades? Yeah.
I introduce Dr. Stewart.
Nice to meet you.
And you are?
I'm a doctor at Misconacty University. I'm here for some of the psychoanalysis on the patient.
Are you performing some kind of study? Because this patient ain't got a whole lot of time for treatment.
Yeah, we just wanted to interview him. That's why the father brought me along. He helps with war vets that have, what do they call it, shell shock or brain addle after the war. They come back and do violent things.
All right. And you?
I'm an investigator. Just taking some notes, got some questions to ask. Just to make sure all the, T's are crossed. And
All right.
all that.
So, no touching. No reaching through the bars. Need you to stay at least 2 feet away from the bars at all times. I don't really care what you talk about. Can't be any contact. Can't be anything passed through those bars.
Yes, sir.
You understand?
And if I were to take his confession, we would have confidentiality.
You know, all the confidentiality of me not listening real close.
Understood.
All right. Let's walk on down. Walk through the prison. It's very cramped. Cells are about 7 foot aside. Bars are about 4 inches apart, 1.5 inches thick. Each cell does have a very small window, but it's set about 8 feet up. Ceilings are about 9 feet high. 1 bunk, toilet, and a sink in each room. Place smells like a latrine, it's not a pleasant smell. People are highly stressed. You get down to Hilton's cell, and he's sitting there in his prison outfit, just kind of hunched over on the edge of his cot. He looks up at you. You're the priest that I was told is coming?
Mm-hmm.
And the warden looks in on him and says, "You got 30 minutes. Hilton, mind yourself. Don't be touching the bars." And he steps over to the side, just watches.
Good morning.
Morning, Father. What brings you here?
I've been helping a lot of former veterans with shell shock. Some of them have done some rather atrocious things. I'd like to talk to you about your experience in the war as well.
Be happy to shake your hand, Father, but don't think that'd go down all too well with the warden over here.
How close is the warden? Is he like close enough to listen to us?
So he's about distance from the table there to me.
So yeah, he's
Yeah.
here just better.
Yeah.
Do you mind, Doctor, if I do my quick interview?
I don't know who you talk. Father?
Or father, yeah. I'll ask him about his. We've already interviewed your wife, and
How is she?
she's doing well. She's concerned about you. Taking notes.
Won't be worrying her too much longer.
We had a friend. Who's our friend's name? Elias was our friend that died, right?
No, that was our friend that died.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We had a friend of ours named Elias.
Jackson.
Jackson Elias was murdered by, and kind of described the top hat and the thing. I understand that you were interested in such things.
Matches the outfit on the killers that I found.
We think that you're being set up for this.
So do I.
We're trying to help fix this.
Good.
So
Appreciate any help I can get. Don't have a whole lot more time for you to help.
we have a week. What do you know about the what have you found out? You were more close to this than anybody.
I got back from the war in 1919. Started finding out about these murders, then realized they were happening about once a month, and started looking into it more closely after I got back.
New moon?
New moon every time. Don't know how long they've been going on. They've been going on since before I got back, at least. Don't think the ones I found out about then were the first ones. Once we figured out what was going on, figured out the new moon thing pretty quick.
Juju House.
How many were being murdered a month? Do you know?
Murders didn't really have a fixed schedule. Started off with just seeing disappearances.
The homeless?
Mostly the homeless, not always. Sometimes folks just turned up missing. First, it's not that uncommon for somebody to turn up missing in Harlem. A lot of people leave when they hear about an opportunity somewhere. A lot of times when they leave, they got to go in a hurry. Sometimes it's somebody's after them. Other times, they've got friends or family somewhere else to give them a chance. Never quite sure why somebody goes when they go. Don't always have time to say goodbye.
We heard from a reporter that about 30 people would show up at that Juju House.
Sounds about right. That's what I saw.
Did you see any leave?
Saw about the same number leave in the morning. It's hard to keep a close count. A lot of times they'd come in 3, 4 at a time, small groups. Don't know what they were doing once they got in there, though.
Where do you think they went? That place is too small.
I don't know.
When did you upset the sergeant?
Captain.
Captain, excuse me.
About the 14th. Cops at the 14th. What do you know about them?
Did you notice my skin color? It's pretty much all I need to do to upset those cops.
Well, they
Why
obviously
these
started to
are
focus in on you in particular.
Once I started, I made the mistake of asking questions. There were people going around telling me and my friends, all the Hellfighters, that that we needed to stop asking questions, upsetting the apple cart. Things were going to start happening to friends and family.
Who said that?
A couple of beat cops. Heard it more than once.
Who did you talk to before the cops started bugging you?
Started asking around. Started talking to, trying to figure out what was going on. Made the mistake of talking to a reporter. Must have given my name to the cops.
You know which reporter you talked to?
I don't.
Man, woman?
Man.
What about Rebecca Schnauzer?
Wasn't her. She's had my back.
Okay.
She's been doing some honest legwork.
Just want to make sure she wasn't the reporter that sold everybody out. 'Cause we just told her everything.
One thing I did notice, none of the abductions or murders or whatever they are took place within a 2-block radius of West 137th Street, between Lenox Avenue and Harlem River, except for that one that got me arrested.
That's 137th at Linux. That's basically where Juju House is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So none of them took place within 2 blocks of Juju House.
After that,
So last night.
this rough circle about a mile west of the Harlem River. All of them seem to happen in that area.
Where?
Rough circle, mile west of the.
Harlem River starting right around that area.
Is there sewer entrance there?
Can't say I know the sewers real well. I just think
It's the
they were
university.
taking people from that. I think they were people from Juju House sneaking out and taking people. And then dumping bodies wherever they could. Further away is better.
I wonder if there's something underground that spreads out to that area.
Your journal.
Yeah,
Hierarchy. Millie said that you had a red cord.
I did.
Is that taken from somebody?
Took it off one of the headbands of a cultist. Grabbed hold of it when he was running. It's the only part of it I got.
Do you know what cult they're from?
Yeah, I do.
What cult were they from?
There's a book in the New York Public Library I found. Talked about the cult of the bloody tongue. Had some kind of links back to Kenya. The only place with those ties was Juju House, run by a man named Silas Nakwane. He was getting goods from Kenya. Something about that place just gave me the creeps when I went in there.
Library.
And then this man built like a brick shithouse. Bald, probably mid-30s.
Yeah, I know him well.
Chased me one time when I was keeping an eye on it. You know his name?
No, what's his name?
That's what I'm asking.
No, haven't figured that out yet.
It's Puddintain.
John Coffey.
I followed him one time. He went into Fat Mabel's. Do you know it?
No.
I've heard of it.
Speakeasy. Up the street by 139th and 6th Avenue. I asked around about him. Nobody wanted to talk about him.
How long has he been around in the neighborhood?
I don't know. But I'm pretty sure that when I asked around about him, that's when somebody decided that I was dangerous. 'Cause it wasn't too long after I asked about him, the cops ran me in.
What do you have any ideas on how we could clear your name?
Figure out who actually killed him.
Yeah, do you have any evidence or any proof that you didn't kill him?
Only body I actually found is the one that the cops found me with. I had all my notes in that notebook. It seems to have vanished from 14th Precinct holding, though.
What do you mean? You think it's vanished from the 14th precinct?
My lawyers asked for that to be turned over as part of the evidence. Cops said there wasn't anything in it. There wasn't any such thing taken from me.
Huh.
I'm sorry. You asked if you knew the name of the guy, right? Totally lied to you. He did get a name. His name's Mukunga Madari. Mukunga M''DARI.
That's a great name. Kunga Madari. What else can we do? What am I not asking you? What else do you know that could help us?
If you can't solve the problem, keep Millie safe.
Yeah, we will.
Has anybody threatened her? Told her to stay out of this mess. She never listened to me before. I don't see why she'd start now. I'm sure if she keeps digging, it's not going to end well for her.
Ask about the symbol. If he's come across the symbol that was carved in the head. Is that part of the cult?
It would be the same symbol that was on the head, on the
tassel headband.
It was.
Do you know
Yeah.
anything about that? Have you seen that anywhere else?
Was in that book that I told you I found in the library called The Cult of the Bloody Tongue. That's their symbol. That's how I was able to identify it.
Have you done any research on this cult?
Found a book at the library.
Okay, I mean nothing external than that.
Thought that was quite a bit of research personally. It's a lot more reading than I like to do.
Harlem's a pretty close-knit community.
It is.
How many people do you think are part of this cult?
Well, I only saw about 30 people heading in. I'm guessing that's the whole cult.
Did you know any of them though? Were any of them like citizens
No.
or?
Nobody that I knew.
30 people against, like I said, communities such as yours, especially when you and your friends are trying to. Just wondering why things that had come to blows before were getting arrested.
Because the cops are on their side.
Were all of the people who walked into the Juju House, were they all African Americans?
Cops and press don't want to report there's an African death cult in Harlem. To tell you the truth, friends and I don't either. Just the kind of bad reputation the neighborhood doesn't need.
You know, there. Have you seen cops go in and out of there too?
A couple of times.
The same ones?
Seen 4 different ones.
Do you know who they are?
See a few names.
Okay. At least we know who we're looking for, you know?
That book that I found at the library is called Africa's Dark Sects. SECTs. Isn't that one Jackson? It's not one Jackson wrote, it's one that vanished from
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
From
I knew I heard of
Harvard.
Oxford or Harvard. I can never
Harvard.
remember where we went.
Oxford
they,
would be in
where
London.
where they lied. This is it's kind of like how Kent State has. Other affiliates.
Yeah.
It's a small. Yeah, when they lied and said we don't have a restricted section, we just have books that disappeared. Brimstone. Whatever. I'm over it.
Maybe you're over.
Totally fine. I'm over it.
I don't have any other questions.
Totally sure that they weren't lying at all.
Do you? Does Nate have any questions?
No, I'm just pretty much all the questions that I think of were already answered.
Yeah.
let's do the confession and stuff. Make it look good.
Alright. You take this confession. Says, I ain't Catholic, Father.
Just play along.
Don't worry, neither is he. I'm just kidding.
He's really
Just know.
actually a terrorist.
Just know, do everything with power.
Yeah.
Make sure a good man doesn't get killed.
I appreciate that, Father.
And to walk out, I'm going to use bureaucracy psychoanalysis to talk to the
Subwarden?
subwarden and just be like, he's paranoid, he thinks there's crazy stuff going on.
I don't think that would help. Well, at this point, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. I just don't want the
Yeah.
warden reporting that we're into that shit.
Yeah.
So we found we talked to some of his associates, and the things we brought up were things that he was rattling on and on about, trying to get a reaction out of him. So just use bureaucracy to make it look like we're not crazy.
Sure. Absolutely. Yeah. He doesn't think you're any crazier than anybody else coming in.
Sure, yeah. I just don't want him going back to the cops and being like, hey, they were asking about African death cults. You guys should check that out.
Again.
Like, they're super into it. Like, you should probably get in on it. My thought was to kind of cover us up a little bit so we don't get, reported to the people that are making people that ask these questions disappear.
Right.
Okay.
I think the only lead we have at this point is following the money. This is obviously what's outside of Sing Sing.
Yeah.
They have to be funding these cops somehow.
With the people they're killing. If there's somebody disappearing, go back to the house, raid them out, steal their stuff.
Yeah, but they're not killing rich
They're-
people.
All right, these are people.
Yeah,
These
they're
are-
probably
these
killing
are-
bums.
And
To be
Organ
completely frank,
harvesting
we're
was
talking
another
about
thing.
the poor part of Harlem.
It's true.
All right, so we're talking about people living in tenements
Yeah.
and stuff. That
People
having,
who aspire to live in tenements.
yes, I mean, think like the southern side of Dublin. Okay.
Yeah, you're right. Where are they getting
And
the money?
it costs a lot of money
I mean, it's
to pay off cops. A lot.
it's not
They
unreasonable to
keep
think
asking for more.
that the Juju House is a legitimate business.
No, I'm not thinking that at all.
No, I don't. Yeah, he wasn't selling shit there. I don't selling anything there. Like, it was a crappy little thing with selling rugs and trinkets. I think it was a front. I don't think there was anything being sold there.
Money's got to be coming from somewhere. And
That's-
enough of it.
I'm curious about the Fat Mabel's speakeasy.
Oh, we're definitely.
Yeah.
That may be a place.
This guy too, this Okunga,
Yeah.
was also seen working at Emerson's Import.
So there's a tie there too. What do we learn at Emerson's Import? You know, you guys want to meet back up with everybody and have this talks.
Yeah.
Or do we know they went to the library?
Yeah.
Let's go to the library.
You
'cause let's see
probably
if
will
we can
pick
find
up
that book.
Samus first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Poor Samus.
He's in Harlem.
We'll meet them at the library because I want to look for that book there. See if that book's at this library.
Yeah.
It is not.
Oh, we got to the library already and picked up Samus.
Yeah, I suppose maybe at the library just have this conversation there.
Sure. Study room.
Yeah.
Okay, I was like,
So-
where?
So tell you guys that it's called the Cult of the Bloody Tongue. It's a Kenyan death cult. And the book that he found that in was African Dark Sex, which is now missing out of this library.
With an X or a CT?
CTS.
Okay. Thank you. I mean,
You're not gonna go anywhere with the bloody tongue thing.
I'm leaving that lie.
You missed the obvious one.
no, I you know, my children may be watching. Hopefully they have something better to do.
We'll tell you guys about Fat Mabel's, about Kunga, Madari, the giant man that tried to kill private investigator friend of ours. Which character's name again?
Declan.
Declan. Tried to murder Declan. And repeat the part about where the bodies were showing up. That may be important. Somebody may trigger something with you guys.
West of the Harlem River, away
West
from
of
Juju
the
House.
The Juju House. Where's Fat Mabel's? Is it by west of the Juju House?
Fat Mabel's is in Harlem. So there's the Harlem River and then the Harlem neighborhood. And so west, I mean, if you look on the map there, it's probably the
West
easiest
Harlem,
way.
basically.
No, you've seen it on Blind's Howard.
West.
Oh, West Harlem, yeah.
My brother has the river.
Is Fat Mabel's on that map?
No.
No.
We're not
This
that
is
lucky.
speakeasy, right?
That sounds
Little
like the greatest
underground.
barbecue ever. I want to go there to Fat Mabel's.
And I'll mention the detective spotted outside the
Damn, I'm hungry.
Juju
your
House.
Get it,
It's a salad. That's not
It could
food.
be money, it could be evidence, it could be
Normally a fat envelope, though.
Is money.
Which means there's a lot of money going through there. And it's got to be coming from somewhere. I mean,
Alright,
I can't think of... It's not like we can walk to the 14th precinct and ask for this book. That they're gonna...
We do have a lawyer working for us now, though.
What's up?
What I'm about to tell you guys is gonna sound,
crazy.
yeah.
More crazy than
No.
African death
You know what?
cults run
Actually,
Harlem.
yes. Actually, it ties into that.
Okay.
So the Bloody Tongue cult is actually related to an outer god called the Crawling Chaos, and
What
the
now?
god's name is Nyarlathotep. I can't say it, but she says it right. Nyarlathotep. There we go.
You gotta say it 3 times.
I
One
said
more
it
time.
twice, and I said it right the second.
And what does that guy believe in?
Or what are his
He has.
followers
He
believe?
is.
I think
Has
the
many disguises.
description chaos should tell you everything you need to know.
Well, he's known as.
Didn't tell about
It's
the
known
disguises?
as different things. Some say that it is a messenger of the gods. Some say that he is all of the gods. It is all of the gods. But when we were in Peru and we faced the father of maggots, or we heard of the father of maggots, that's one of his disguises.
So like, go ahead and give me a stability. Oh.
Who?
Anybody? All of them?
3.
Okay. Lose a point of stability. That was unsettling.
Oh, that's right, 'cause he like had
He is.
moment.
He knows what he
He's
looks
the one
like.
that decided to take a real close look at Father Maggots.
I know, I'm really jealous.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I'm so curious. What did it look like?
We'll be both psychoanalysis this guy. Liquid triage.
Suffice it to say.
Yeah, I just get I get uncharacteristically quiet.
That was also part of the ritual that brought forth the spirit on our first little foray together.
Like a seance?
Thanks.
Kind of like
I'm okay.
Alright.
He is far older than Christ.
Who?
The legend of what
We
she
can start
just-
debating theology about that, but I don't want to roleplay that out. So.
what she just said.
Not theology.
I will not.
It's real.
I will not speak that name.
Okay.
So this bloody tongue cult is like one arm.
Mm-hmm. Tentacle.
Like Hydra.
Interesting. So, didn't we find out that there were a lot of these? Didn't Jonah or a lot? I can't remember his name. Our buddy that died.
Jackson.
Jackson. Thank you.
You're saying Elias. You're getting ready to say his first name.
Yeah. Didn't he say that there were many parts of this thing? Is this all the cult he was talking about in his notes? You think?
Probably.
No,
Maybe.
not now. It sort of doesn't make sense. This ain't the document.
That's
This
not
Or
ain't the
good.
document.
it's making
that's
more
just
sense.
to Harvard.
There's too much stuff.
Oh my God, no.
So
Because he
yes,
said
there
there are
it
all
is.
sorts of all sorts of.
This ain't it.
Yeah, it is. From the
Oh
hotel.
yeah, it is. Yes. What was the question?
Yes.
It all makes perfect sense. What was the
Yes.
question?
Wait,
So the
what?
cult of the bloody tongue,
42.
you said, is related to the thing that you guys ran into in Peru.
Yeah.
And he said in his notes that this is far-reaching, worldwide, and there's many arms. So is this what he was
Tentacles.
referring to? Tentacles.
Yeah.
Is this
I
what got him
guess.
killed? He's been researching this,
That's very reasonable.
and that this is the cult that,
Well,
and it's
But
bigger than just this arm.
Considering the fact that the bloody cult did in fact kill him.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's my thought. And then we know that this somehow traces back to the expedition,
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
because
Sorry.
that was in Kenya, right?
Part of it.
Nairobi, Kenya.
Started in Egypt.
I need a map. I mean,
Yep.
Yeah.
Dun, 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 dun. Like,
there's a map behind you. Let's see. Where is
you guys have a world map.
What? I just didn't pull it up.
Yeah. You have a 1920s era world map.
they went to Giza, then they went to
They went to-
Saqqara, and then Dashur.
So
So they started off up in Egypt. Well, they started in London.
London.
yeah.
Probably to
And then
pick
Right,
up
went
right.
to
That's
Egypt.
right, their
Egyptologist.
kickoff point.
Was there for a little bit and then got heat stroke and then we're like, we're going to Kenya.
Saqqara, then
Where is Kenya?
Dashur.
It's
Down.
east side of
Then,
it.
South of
then they
Egypt,
moved to
yeah.
Kenya in the summer of 1919.
So farther.
Is it a coastal?
Congo?
No,
No, I don't
this
think it's
area.
coastal.
No.
But I think it's on the east side.
Yeah.
It's at the bottom of the Nile, basically.
There's the Nile. Sudan.
And there's Lake Victoria, and then
There's Lake Victoria.
Kenya's
Here.
below that.
Below
I
that.
brought this for you.
That was very considerate of you.
Actually, that's kind of amazing.
It is pretty amazing.
I thought you were kidding at first, but this is exactly what I needed.
That's why we keep him around. He just-
Literally, that was like wizard
just-
stuff you just did.
He just
What
picks
is that?
stuff up.
Right.
Congo, Angola, Madagascar. Okay, it's probably not on this map.
I don't know if it was a actual country, Kenya at the time.
Well, you
Would have been
Oh, there it
Nairobi
is.
is.
I found
yeah,
it.
Okay.
It's
Like-
right next
Yeah.
to Lake Victoria.
Yeah.
Okay.
French West Africa or East Africa or something.
And they were there then, huh? They went to Kenya.
Mhm.
Yes.
And then
Mhm.
after that,
Disappeared.
they
That's when they disappeared.
That's where they disappeared.
and that just happens to be where this death cult's from.
Huh. Amazing. Who'd have thunk it?
I'm super
Dun, dun, dun.
I'm super putting stuff together now.
Yeah.
Hey, we need a montage.
All right.
We need to figure out who sent him to to Egypt in the first place, and we have some information. You're the guy that you hate
Yeah.
the French guy.
I don't think anybody sent him to Egypt.
No,
in the
Sir
first
Aubrey
place.
Penhew was the guy who funded the expedition.
Right.
That's why
Okay.
they went.
But they went to go look for King Solomon's mines. It's a famous
Anything. Mhm.
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
treasure hunt.
That's why he went
I've
to
seen Alan Quartermain.
Kenya.
Well, they denied King Solomon that they had a lead on King Solomon's mines.
We need, what was the? Well, we haven't figured out what the artifact was in 1919 by that French guy that would inevitably lead the Carlisle expedition to Kenya, right? You don't know what that is.
We don't know what that is yet. Mustafa doesn't like that guy. He's totally.
We know.
He's totally. He's a real skeevy
How
character.
do you know him?
You have a name
I'm from Egypt.
that also
I also
comes
am
out.
an antiquarian.
Oh, from
that-
all my stuff. Oh, yes, that's right.
That sells
Meru, right?
Malaru.
Meru. I can't say it.
Also,
Makes sense.
he is
Thank you.
I don't know if
Right,
you
I
wanted to
forgot.
share that,
You know
but
what?
her
I
name
do.
did not
because
come
we're
up.
all ruminating over the
Mhm.
expedition and wondering. So, something else that came up in my very confidential notes that I'm not allowed to read to you guys is that there was one person that was never mentioned ever that also went on this expedition.
The socialite and their
No,
photographer.
that was mentioned. You're talking about Patty,
Hypatia.
and then you're talking about
It's the same one. Hypatia Masters
or
was the
Hypatia
socialite
Patty
and the
Masters. Yeah,
yeah,
she
photographer.
was,
So who was the person never mentioned?
I'm gonna say it wrong. Meru,
Maweru.
Moeru.
Who's that?
She's never mentioned in the papers. Now it was rumored that Roger met her at the Cotton Club, and he kept calling her his African princess and also Anastasia.
So she's Russian.
No, she's African American. She was an African American.
And the Cotton Club is here in Harlem.
Yes, very famous.
Didn't I say
she
I wanted to
actually-
go to Cotton
Yeah.
Club?
Yeah.
She
But now
actually
we got a
chose
name.
who went on the expedition.
She chose?
Mm-hmm.
Malawea? Is
No,
really-
no.
I think she's part of this.
I can tell you how it's spelled.
M''WERU. Maweru.
Nowhere.
I'm
Yeah.
still somewhat
M
not
apostrophe
really
what?
on the fence about Fireball.
M''WERU.
And she sort of catalytically shared Roger's obsession for Egypt.
Is she from Egypt or was she from here?
She's from.
That is not an
where
Egyptian
she's
name.
From.
No?
If he calls her an African princess, I'm gonna assume she's from Africa.
No, yeah, okay, maybe not Egypt. Africa. Was she from Africa?
Africa is Egypt. Egypt is Africa.
No, it's over there.
How many times do I have to tell you?
It's not. It's like over here.
But if that's an African
Africa
name,
is Egypt.
and it's not an
Egypt
Egyptian
is Africa.
name.
It is a Kenyan name.
Okay.
Or a made up name like that Silas. What kind of African name is Silas? He's probably
Like
from
it's
Jamaica.
African.
You're killing me, all of you.
It's like really like right over there. It's not really.
It is. What? It is part of Africa.
It's like over there though.
No, it's not. Look at the map.
That map is old.
Oh,
about
yes.
nowadays when it's shifted.
Egypt
through
has
continental
continental
like
shifted.
tectonics.
Yes, that's true.
It's now become part of the Middle East.
It is
even though
moved.
it's not.
That's your thing. Yeah.
It's moved.
Let's see here.
I think I'm confusing so much stuff.
Africa.
Yeah, but it's like still right there. Yeah, see, it's not real. I mean, it's like.
That's
there.
Africa.
Wow.
It's kind of like calling Canadians. They're not really from the North America. I mean, they're Canadians.
Is this
I get what you're saying, though.
Meru?
almost
I agree.
somewhere
I'm just
else.
not doing it in front of him.
It's all cool.
Was she a fortune teller or a?
I don't know what she was. I know that she was a catalyst.
Well, if she was,
And he was obsessed with her.
well, that's cool.
Obsessed with her.
We could always
So
go
that
to
you
the
don't
Cotton
have a
Club and-
handsome Egyptian to perhaps woo
Yeah, where
her.
can we find one of them?
Yes. Who now has a sword cane
Is
and a
this,
tuxedo and
is
a
this
cat.
god you talk about ever called the Black King?
Yes.
Because he mentions it, the Black King in this note.
Okay.
Upon some of the great here, they'll open the gate. Why? What's in it for them?
do they think they're doing something else? The great deceiver, the power and the danger is real. Who is really evil here? All of them? None of them? Some of them? Pawns. Who is the great master? Question mark. Pawn sacrifice is the safest move. Direct attack against the Black King would be insane. So he's talking about,
Nyarlathotep.
yeah. As if it would stop them or whoever impossible to play to a draw. So I think this chart he's got on the back are just different cults. I think they're different arms of the cults because there's the symbol right there that
Where's the bloody tongue? Yeah.
the bloody tongue symbol. I wonder if these other symbols are symbols to the cults, to the different arms or different factions.
It'd be
And that
really
was kind
funny
of on
if
the
there was,
outside, so
if there was a maple leaf on there. That would be really awesome.
Canada was one of them.
Canada.
Yeah.
See, that's
All
what I'm
of
saying.
Canada.
Yeah.
Just like right.
they're spreading
Like
corruption.
Egypt is a
through
part of
the whiskey.
Africa. Canada is
Do
part
these
of death
other
cults.
symbols make any sense to me for anything?
They do not.
Okay.
Excellent
Why
question.
are there blank boxes on the chart?
It's like
That's
Mad
all the
Libs.
ones he knows.
It's tic-tac-toe.
Yeah, and there's also some repetition too. Three
Yeah.
boxes have the same symbol. Don't know what that means.
Yeah.
Maybe when we see it, we'll know.
We do have a lawyer.
Do we?
Yes.
We do.
Jackson.
Oh, that's right.
But-
From Jackson, from the will.
I think maybe we should try to get a subpoena for the
We don't know any judges.
the notebook.
The notebook disappeared. It's not.
Right, but I mean, that is the key to breaking the story in the press.
I think the
Right,
detectives
but
took it.
You can't
Right.
subpoena something that is
The cat.
technically not in evidence.
Yeah.
But if they had it and they
But they're
checked
claiming they
it
never
in,
had
They
it.
claim
Right.
they never had it.
I thought they said that it disappeared.
No, they
Well,
claimed that
he
it was
says that
never.
it disappeared. It's kind of like if I were to arrest a guy, and I'm taking him in, and he's like, "Oh, what proves my innocence was in my back pocket," and they're like, "Was there anything in his back pocket?" No. Okay then.
Who did we originally heard this from somebody else?
Yeah, but it wasn't
didn't we?
one.
His wife
His
was
wife.
the original one that told us about this diary. Obviously, we know the diary
And the
exists.
reporter, right?
Right.
She knows
Well,
that.
she knows it through secondhand, from hearing it from him and his wife. We know it exists. I don't think Hilton is lying to us, and we know that the cops are on the take because everybody says so, and he just talks
So
to
there's
people that
no
witnessed them
paper
taking a
trail
ride.
for this
No, not
journal. Okay, so when you looked at like the precinct, there was no.
We didn't go to the
Oh,
we
we
didn't go to the
lost that.
14th.
We didn't go to,
We were into the 14th.
and I don't think.
You want to?
Yeah, right.
I don't think that's a good play
We
right
know
now.
that you're up to something.
I think a good play is going to Juju House. The problem is, there's only two ways to get into Juju House. One of them I really don't like because it means you're going to get killed. And the other way, I kind of don't like because it means we're going to have to kill other people.
And get killed, so it doesn't.
Possibly be killed at the same time.
Death or
That's the
death.
that's the two options we're kind of looking at right
There's
now.
part 3. He says in his note that the books that explain all this stuff are in the Carlisle safe.
I'll get him.
Okay.
Well, you can try.
Oh no, I'll get
Let
him.
me throw one other thing out there. Somebody want to spend a point of evidence collection?
We're at the library still. So.
You are, but you got a report by way of Samus from the guy watching Juju House.
I have library use, but not evidence collection.
I
do.
have
I'll
both.
spend a point.
I do. So no, I
Oh,
have
do you want to spend it then?
If I have enough.
Oh, you just said 1 point, right?
I just said 1 point of evidence collection. Whoever wants to spend
I'll spend it.
Okay. Looking over the reports you're getting it back, between what Millie said, what you guys saw, and what Needham's relative has reported to you already, you know that Juju House closes down at noon for an hour every day, and Silas goes out for lunch. After it closes at 5 every day, Silas goes out to dinner. You got an hour from around noon till 1 o'clock when there's nobody in there. Another hour from about 5 to 6
We're still gonna
where there's nobody
physically
in there.
break in though.
And he eats really slow.
Why not?
We can lock it.
Oh, who's we?
I blocked it.
You know that.
Or you could, you know,
I've been in
distract him.
We don't. Well, that's better than me breaking through the window like I was about that close to
I
doing.
think
You could
Sam was
distract him,
fine,
and
too.
we can
Do you have one?
get his key.
I do.
He's got a key around
Yeah,
his neck.
teach me that.
Yeah.
So you want to jump him, take his key, and
No,
okay.
you can distract him, and then we could try
What the
and steal his key.
Are you nuts? So you
Around
know,
his
is it
neck.
like what kind of was it?
Leather thumb.
There's no way this guy. I bet he like fiddles with that.
I
thing
did not. I happened to glance and see it. He was not fondling it or playing with it, or
Definitely
he was
can
wearing
pick
a.
locks. Why don't we
he
just
was-
go with that?
He was wearing a blanket,
Lock
so he
picks.
didn't have any pockets.
Pick locks, lock picks.
Does it go into Carlisle's dreams in that report?
Pardon?
Does it go into Carlisle's dreams in that report?
Mhm.
Because he had the same dreams like Carlisle's.
What
he
were
said.
they?
Too big, too ghastly, these dreams like Carlisle's. It's gotten inside my head. In my head, something head, crazy. Call head shrinker and check that psychologist's files. What if we're the same?
How did he know that he had the same dreams as Carlisle?
He also had somehow got a letter of Carlisle's.
Am I becoming?
Yeah.
Am I becoming a him? Carl can't be. All of them survived. Is what he's wrote.
That's right.
Yeah, they're
Who
all
knows?
alive.
Maybe he was on the expedition.
He just didn't realize.
At least
Yeah.
two of them.
So
Or
what
maybe
were
he
the
actually
dreams?
talked
Can
to
you
Carlisle.
tell us about that?
They were all different, and they were.
I'm just
they
trying to
got
tie all this together.
increasingly worse.
And what were they of?
First, they were just the webs. Someone trying to walk through Carlisle trying to walk through webs, which turned into him meeting a gaunt, weathered man. Eventually, that man turned into a pharaoh, and then he was a showman who was putting on putting on a show for a mass audience. And those turned into almost and I guess the pharaoh turned into a giant monster that towered over even buildings with a giant red tentacle on the top of its head,
Were those all?
eating people.
Were those all different? And didn't they say that?
All at different times.
Was he dreaming of the Black King?
He was dreaming of a pharaoh.
But didn't you say that the Black King takes many different forms?
Yes,
And that
but he didn't take the form of the Black King. He took the form of the pharaoh.
okay.
You guys kind of think king and pharaoh pretty
Yeah.
synonymous.
Yeah. Yeah. So he was dreaming about this Black King that this cult's about, and
Yeah.
our guy, Elias Jackson, was doing the same thing.
And then eventually Huston did too.
Do I know? Can I psychoanalysis? Is there some sort of like shared psychosis that could happen from?
Sure, that could be mass hysteria of all
Absolutely,
kinds.
you're familiar with mass hysteria. Especially if the people
I mean, if you're
in
trying
question
to
were-
rationalize it.
I mean, I am.
Especially
Okay,
if the
right.
people,
My guy is still.
Yeah, I'm rationalizing. Yeah, she used to do that.
Yeah, if the people in question were talking to each other about it, or if somebody was reading about somebody else's, that could certainly trigger it. Seems
Most-
perfectly reasonable to you.
But most mass hysteria doesn't end getting your throat slit, stuff carved into your
I think you would be surprised.
Well, you know, maybe he carved it into his own forehead before he slit his throat.
Or
I'm just
However, you're gonna
maybe this
rationalize.
whole cult is part of the mass hysteria too. They're all freaking out in the same way.
I was once very much like
Just adorable, innocent, just super
always
innocent.
trying to rationalize
Yeah.
things away.
In general, these cults are triggered by the millennia or the end times, and often the moon. The moon is generally figures into it. Some people believe it's because of the tides that tie us all together.
Well,
Well, at least
Which
it's starting to make a little
we
bit of sense.
we at least have
affects the
a
Nile,
point to
which
go.
is in Africa.
We have 3 points to go off of
Really
here. We have the
this
Cotton Club.
way.
We have the
Fat Mabel's.
Fat Mabel's, and then we have the hour window
The Juju Club.
at the Juju House.
And the books in the Carlisle's.
I
safe.
get them.
Okay.
Now,
Meet them. You're gonna meet her tomorrow.
right, you're
I
meeting
think
her
that's really
tomorrow.
important. I'd like to see some of those
I
books.
want you to come with me because I
Okay.
think that you have more. I mean, not that I don't want. You're an educated.
Fool.
No, I
Money
just
on
think
my
that you
mind.
would make a good impression with the lawyer, as opposed to me bringing everybody with me and
I'm sure
scaring the
they'd
shit
make
out
an
of
impression
Erica.
on the lawyer.
What's that?
I'm sure they'd make an impression.
That's what
on
I'm
the lawyer.
saying, right? I think it's yeah. So
Okay.
she's bringing a lawyer. I'm bringing Dr.
So a
Stewart.
priest, an Egyptian, and a hobo.
Enter
I'll walk
some
into a
Walk
lawyer's
fancy
into a,
office.
restaurant. I don't
all
even know
walk
where-
into a mansion on the
Right.
Upper West Side.
I don't even know where we're meeting at.
At her mansion.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I can
In
get
Westchester.
Sweet. That's not till tomorrow.
I mean, we can proceed to that, or we can do something else first. It depends
I
on
can do Juju's.
Well, we
first.
chronology.
Yeah. When
I
you get
do
to
want to, while I'm there, I want to look up the society pages for
Absolutely.
this Moeru.
Mm-hmm.
See if there's any pictures of her or
There aren't any
mentions.
pictures or mentions of the name Mweru, but there is a mention of a Nishonka, Nichonka, Bunay, Bunay,
B-U-N-A-Y.
who was a psychic in Harlem for a few months in 1919, and you find a couple of you find a mention that Carlisle, that she was a entertainer at a party that Carlisle went to. There's nothing linking them more than that, but the fact that they were both mentioned in the same article suggests that this could be the one.
Out of curiosity, the morning paper, what does it say about last night's events in Harlem?
Gun
Nothing.
shooting. Oh.
I'm sure the cultist you killed was quickly disposed of. I mean, I still haven't killed anybody.
There's no
But you're
blood.
working on it.
Yeah.
Well-
There's no blood on her hands yet.
He's got his cane ready.
Yes. Well, I think a visit to the Cotton Club would be a good place.
Do you want all of us, some of us, or none of us?
A father going into it.
Yeah, I don't think I would be an appropriate.
It's really elitist.
I got a pretty solid credit rating.
I don't right now.
Also,
I think going to Mayville's is more my speed, but
Yeah, I do.
All right, so this is Tuesday night we're talking about.
I want
Yeah.
to do two more things to that.
Yeah.
Or one, ask if they have Africa's Dark Sex.
They do not.
With
They
the
did have a
CTS.
copy, but it seems to have gone missing.
Do you have looking for a dictionary of symbols? Like
Of course, they absolutely have.
do they have one I could check out?
That's part of the reference collection. It's not
I'm gonna
part of the
look
circulating
up the-
collection.
Those symbols. I have them in my notebook.
Sure.
You don't have to tell me right now.
You don't find any of them in it.
Those symbols.
Not a one.
Even the bloody tongue one.
Not even the bloody tongue one.
The other guy found all kinds of crap here.
what if it's a graph?
He must have had library 20.
What if the symbols on top represent one thing and the stuff underneath means that it's
Okay.
part of it?
Could be.
Like the bloody tongue could be part of whatever that square with a bird in it is. I think that's a bird. Or it's just an equal lot. I don't know.
Wait a minute, there was a cult with the mountains with the birds that came down?
That
Yeah.
was in Africa. Or not Africa, Australia.
Cult of Darkness, father of all bats.
Yeah, that's Africa. You did it again.
Australia.
Do you not have a point in geography?
No.
Nope.
Is it even on here?
Absolutely not.
No, I don't think it's a skill.
Like if these, because you got
We
three
could add
dots
it, we could
here.
just like
I'm gonna put
It's
that
like a
in.
Sudoku.
And give
Yeah,
myself
I
10
don't know.
points.
I'm grasping it. I don't even know if that's a bird. It kind of looks like, because I see that and I'm like, oh, that might be a beak of something, but I have no idea. It just might be a square with a blot in it. I don't know.
Yeah.
I just What is that? Is that?
I don't know. It could be an upside down ankh
That's what
or
I'm
something.
wondering.
But
I
it
don't
seems
know.
filled up there, so I don't know.
Well, we have heard about an upside down ankh being.
Really? Where'd you hear about that?
It just happened. Where did we just hear about an upside down?
I
ankh?
didn't actually say
No,
it.
she didn't. This is when she
But
was
that's
reviewing.
fine.
I don't know what
That's
about
fine.
it. This is the
That
first
could have
I've
been
heard.
part of the dream stuff because that was part
Before
of the
you
dream stuff.
arrived, we discussed stuff that she found in Houston's
An
notes.
ankh on one hand.
She
and
talks
a
in her
pyramid.
sleep and we overheard.
What
Knock
were you
on one
doing in the
hand.
room with the lady sleeping?
Jesus.
I was listening.
Looking, listening, sniffing.
An ankh on one hand and a poorly drawn pyramid on the other.
Well, you know what? We can easily get a symbol of the Master of Bats or that cult because we do have a contact in Miskatonic.
Yeah.
So we can probably get that quite easily.
I can make it. I can
and
make
then
a
we
call.
can
Okay.
reference that symbol with this and see if that is what that is or not.
I think once we firebomb this cult, then we can hit this hard. Hit this running.
So your vote is for the let God sort it out.
I think so. I mean, that's been our modus operandi to this
Well,
point.
there was some kind of motivation to save the guy in jail.
Yeah. And if
Right.
we burn the
I-
Juju
no,
house
I
down,
do-
we're going to burn any evidence that he is innocent.
Well, the only people that can help us are the police, or
There's
the
more than just the 14th
Right.
precinct.
right, but they're
Yeah.
not going to come
Cameras-
into the 14th precinct.
If the
They're not
14th
the big
precinct
ones with
is
the stands
involved
right
with
now,
it,
are
they
they?
will.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean,
That's
Well,
what we need the
smaller
reporter
than-
for. But we need that smoking gun.
so
Right, that's why we need that.
even a smaller one is still
Yeah.
one of those that
We have
folds
4
down to only be
days
about that thick,
before
but in order to take a
Warmers,
picture, you have to
pretty
extend the
much.
accordion in front.
So we can spend it like the 18 building
And you need-
gliders.
Yeah.
I know when a plan comes together.
We're gonna build a glider
I
and
believe
get a
there's a
van.
photography skill.
And,
It is. I don't have that.
And we don't have to worry about that
I have a
one
Model
really big
T.
dude getting out because he'll be
Evidence.
terrified of flying.
Be able to take pictures. Does anybody have photography?
I do.
You have a camera?
Do you have a camera?
Yeah, it's
do.
That big one that
preparedness, yeah.
splashes a bulb and then,
We may want to bring that with us when we raid this
I
place.
think he's been doing that everywhere. Haven't you been hauling that stuff?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, good.
I keep my private investigator kit with me.
Mm-hmm. Take my desk down.
Yeah.
Can I see that letter?
Oh, here's
Thank
my
you.
character sheet. Swear I have it.
Exactly. That's what I was waiting for. No, it's all right, man.
It's
Yeah.
fine.
A few phone calls. That's probably a variation of the symbol of the Master of Bats.
That's
All
what
right,
I
so
thought.
it's
Those
these
were
on there.
all.
Or it could be the Rebel Alliance.
It could be that as well, yes.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking when I first saw that. Actually,
So the Master of Bats and the Bloody Tongue, the Cult of the Bloody Tongue, are both on that graph. I would assume that those are other tendrils of the cult that he was trying to tell us about.
but what I was saying though is, this is my thought.
And you all
These top symbols are like big cult. These smaller stuff is small cult, or they are affiliated with each other.
Maybe.
I don't know though.
Oh,
I don't know.
like this one is affiliated with this one and this one.
No, like this one is affiliated with this one. And this one is affiliated with this and this. Whatever
Okay.
that may be.
He said
These
what's
are all 3 of these are all affiliated. I don't know.
So in the madness though of a person who doesn't understand any, like, why would he put like this symbol in the middle of the graph when it could just be easily up there, right? So I think there's
Maybe he doesn't know who that is.
Yeah, but
Maybe the small potato ain't matching up to a big potato.
Well,
Oh, so
right
you're
before that, he writes impossible to play to a
This is all
draw.
hypothesis. I have no fucking idea.
I mean, it's not
I'm
unreasonable.
grasping here.
I think it's a
It was just an idea that popped in my head. That's all.
Small
it's
potato,
okay.
big potato. Got it.
Right. I mean, there are 3 dots. I mean, that's
I
a
thought
pretty
my,
cracky symbol for a cult, just a
Right.
circle. You know, I was like,
That's when you're
hey,
so
it's
crazy.
Japan.
That's when
Yeah,
you're so
that-
crazy though you don't even care anymore.
I thought my tic-tac-toe idea was valid.
I think it's Sudoku, really.
Definitely the circles.
or they're all coming together. Who knows?
Well, I can go to the Cotton Club and seek out this hot Egyptian lady.
Should we split the party?
She's not Egyptian.
Well, excuse me.
Yeah, but
This
if
African lady.
she's obsessed about Egypt,
She's gone. No, she went with it. I mean, she went on the expedition.
she went on the expedition.
If you're just trying to get more information about her, it was rumored that she worked there.
Wait a second. So she was the only one from the expedition that isn't dead?
No. She was the only one who went on the expedition whose name isn't even mentioned.
Ever. And also picked everyone that went on the expedition.
So we don't even know if she's alive.
No,
Okay.
we don't know that.
Okay.
She's alive.
That's all I'm saying is like if she was not mentioned in the expedition, but
Yeah.
How do you
they
know
all
that?
disappeared. So
I'm pretty sure most of the people from the expedition are alive.
Okay, so
I'm pretty sure that too.
I agree.
I'm quite positive at this point that they are probably still all alive,
No.
or most of them.
Well, this
In
is
some way
interesting
or
information, though. So if she picked those people, and
Mhm.
what?
Significance did she have to this?
Well, just think
Yeah,
of
but, or those other people.
think of
what
it this way.
significance do
He
those
calls
other
her
people-
a princess.
Uh-huh.
Princess is normally the daughter of a king.
Yeah, well.
Well,
is it
what is it?
literal,
The
or is she
evil
just
king,
a-
black king, or whatever they
Yeah,
want to call.
Black King,
Okay,
yeah.
so normally if you call a princess, and he called her Anastasia, Anastasia was separated from her family and hidden.
Okay.
I got it. So she could possibly be a big Jojo type thing. Again, I don't know. I'm
It was
talking
so
about
good until that last part.
Yeah. All right, so she is somebody of importance, but she had a hand in choosing who the people went on the expedition were. So what's
No,
it?
she didn't have. She picked everyone who
Okay.
went on that expedition.
So we can do research then on
got-
why those people she selected are also important.
money.
All those people had
Education.
tons of money,
Mhm.
Got a
and
lot
if
of
she took their money and is funding this cult, if she's the head of the cult, that's where they're paying off the cops. They should follow the money.
That's one thing from it. I mean, another thing would
don't
be.
you love it when we do your job? For
It's like you just do whatever you want.
Just kick it back.
You guys are 100% wrong, but
I didn't say that. I didn't say you were right either, but I didn't say you were wrong.
If she went on the expedition, all I'm saying is, the words that he used in his dreams to describe this woman was that she was a princess in Anastasia.
they weren't in his dreams. This is what
Oh, this is what he calls her.
This is what
Yeah, it
he
was
called her.
literally what he
saw.
Anytime that Roger and
Roger is
Hus-
Dr. Houston.
Huston.
Or I'm sorry, Roger Carlyle
Right,
and
Roger
Dr.
Carlyle
Houston.
and Dr. Is it Houston? It's Huston,
It's
right?
Huston. I've always said it Houston.
Okay, Houston, Huston. No, that would be whenever they were in private. He hated her. The doctor hated her.
Okay, the doctor hated her.
He was jealous of her. Thought she was a gold digger.
Probably.
Just what he was, basically.
Actually, yeah.
But if you want to go off of metaphors, calling her a princess and Anastasia
Well, calling her a princess
is
him
a
being-
term of endearment.
Yeah,
but
but
why
he's
Anastasia
also-
then?
She-
No, normally I
he
don't go
is
up to
a
like,
rich
oh,
white
how
dude.
you doing, Anastasia? You know,
Well, he
unless their
actually
name is
claimed
Anastasia, you
that
wouldn't
she
do that.
was an African.
Well,
princess.
you can mention the alias that you found for her at this point.
I come running in with a pile of newspapers, and I'm like,
Slam 'em.
slam! Okay, I took this bitch down. She was a psychic. She was at a party where Carlyle was boozing it up with his rich colonizer friends.
Like
Her
if-
name was Nunchako Bunye.
Okay.
Obviously not an Egyptian.
That's. I don't think it was ever questioned.
That's the chick at the kind of okay.
Okay, so Nishanka.
Nichonka. Nishanka.
Okay,
How does this relate to the conclave again? I'm sorry.
that's
Oh,
where
this
she
is
worked.
where she
That's where she
allegedly
worked.
worked.
Right, but then she went on an expedition where supposedly everyone died. But she's
Right.
not mentioned in that expedition,
no.
nor is she mentioned in being one of the dead of that
Any
expedition.
of the,
because
That's
she
right.
wasn't
not in
mentioned
any
at all.
of the newspapers.
The only lead we have on her is that she that she worked at the Cotton Club at one
She
time in
did it.
1919.
Maybe.
So that was
3 to 4 years ago,
no, it's 25 now. So
5 years ago, 6 years ago.
6 years ago. A lot can change. I mean, you could go in there and ask around, but
It was 1918.
Maybe she's sitting there now. We do not know.
Alright, but do we have a timeline in which we can make the sort of like the distinction between when she was a psychic in Harlem and when she met Roger Carlyle?
I'll look
I don't know when she. I don't know. What
We need.
psychic
Does she have a
information you
business?
managed to pull up?
She had.
As a psychic?
I believe she had. Didn't you say she had a shop?
I did not say. I said she worked as an entertainer.
Okay.
Stripper.
So one of those spiritualists.
Psychic entertainer.
Yeah.
Mind
She'd still
stripper.
be a stripper.
She's German now?
Yeah.
Mall rats.
Does she have a third nipple?
Exactly.
So the Cotton Club is kind of, I mean, it's a shot in the dark, if anything.
But they may know her. And we can get some
There's.
information.
We have what 3 days?
We have
it's
like
still
10
Tuesday
days.
night.
Yeah, it's still Tuesday night.
Tuesday night.
Well,
10 days.
I think
before
going
the guy gets
to
killed.
the speakeasy.
What about the feds?
We know that.
was it really a thing back in the 20s?
Yeah.
I guess
Well,
it was just kind of coming
During
together with
Prohibition.
Elliot Ness, and
Prohibition.
yeah.
that was kind of the
And that's what Chicago though.
yeah.
I mean, there
Or
were
here.
there were G-men, but they weren't.
He came to Cleveland after.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, but
But that was.
Right,
we
but
was
if they
30s,
think, you
35.
know,
that was about a bar he had to shoot at.
I used to live in the apartment across from where he was. I was in his body. I used to live in his bodyguard's apartment.
Oh, that's
Like,
cool.
I almost
when
thought
you
you
live in
said you
Andrews?
used to live in his body. I'm like,
Okay.
It was kind of cool because it had 2 doors.
What street?
It was off of Clifton and what's the name of that? Andrews. Clifton
Andrews.
area? Yeah.
I'm just trying to come up with a way where we do not have to directly get
The,
killed in
the
order to
article
stop this
that you
bomb.
found was dated June 19th of 1918.
This is Cthulhu. We're all gonna die.
It's just a matter of if you go insane or if you get killed.
June 19th, 1918?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's weird.
Why?
Any mention when in those reports? Any mention
Yeah,
when
he met her.
Maru was
Yeah,
entered the
he
picture?
met her way before that.
Oh, okay. So he knew her before 1918.
Oh, no, he knew her in 1918, but he knew her before. What was the date, June?
June 18th.
Okay, so
June
before
18th or 19th? Sorry.
He might have met her even sooner than that, but.
She's a witch.
Is that the only article that we don't have a handout for?
It is.
Damn it.
So she
Houston,
must have been.
Houston met her acquaintance on 4/21,
Okay.
1918. Now,
Okay.
I think Carla or Roger knew her before then.
Well, tomorrow we'll know exactly when they met. When you ask Erica that
I
question.
don't know if Erica knows
As you,
anything like that.
as you,
Mm.
as his character knows,
Are you pointing to Dr. Stewart? Okay.
yes, Dr. Stewart, that there were so many people that died between 1914 and 1918 that occultism and channeling the spirits became like huge.
Yeah, it was so,
So-
mainstream.
Anybody, who, I mean, it was like, you know,
Houdini was even going around trying to debunk him.
it was like playing Cards Against Humanity. You just had
You're like, just hear this.
everybody
Everybody
has
went to a
it.
seance once.
Yes,
I've never
exactly.
played it.
And
What?
Egyptology
Oh.
was huge
Yeah.
in the 20s.
It's hilarious. It's terrible that you laugh at some of the shit that comes out.
But it's so funny.
Okay.
Alright, so again, split the group, I guess.
Yeah, I don't want to rush you, but we're running a little low on time. We got about half an hour left, so I just want to go over what you guys are planning for Tuesday evening.
I thought we were gonna burn
they were
down
gonna
the
burn
Juju
down the
house.
Juju house.
No, no.
Tuesday afternoon. Let's hit it. Let's all go in there for lunch and just investigate it.
Go into the Juju house
Yeah.
room?
When he goes away for lunch.
Oh, when he goes, I was like, what are you
Yeah.
gonna just like bring in sandwiches
That's right.
and go?
Pick the lock. Go in. Just we all search the place real quick. Get out in an hour. Then
Look for a basement. I mean, really,
Yeah,
that's what we're
that's what
looking
we're
for.
looking- really is
because we
always-
know
Now,
how small that
To
place
be
is.
fair,
What access do we have? Either it's in that weird room or it's somewhere that we didn't get to
Although
see.
it might not one of their members just got gunned down the other night.
Oh, that would
Right,
be
by
horrible.
one of our party members.
I don't know who.
Yeah.
They don't know
Dressed
who
as
yet
a
either,
hobo.
They don't.
hopefully.
Yeah,
But if we
it was-
go there now, it's going to be a pretty safe assumption. So if we go there,
Mhm.
it's going to be the people who. Some of us are going to have to stay pretty close to that door, and
Do you want?
not bring knives. You know what I'm saying?
Do you want some of us just to like? Do you guys just want to go in real quick and look for an entrance down there and call us if you find one? Like we don't all have to go in at once. You can go stand in the pawn shop next door. We know that.
I want to go in.
What does Samus think of this? Samus,
Poor Samus.
I don't think
Samus
it's
is
a
like,
good
whatever,
idea.
I'm gonna be the one that lives.
I don't know if this is
We
a
need to
good
figure
idea.
out where that big dude's at.
He's
Oh,
working
yeah, it's
at the
probably in
place
the
during the
Oh,
day.
that's right.
He works at
Fat Mabel's.
Emerson.
No.
No, he visits
The docks
tables.
that.
Yeah, he works at Emerson.
You know what?
Okay.
Let's do it. Let's break into the Juju House.
Yeah.
Let's not say we did.
Oh,
Why?
that's gonna be hard
You
for
probably already missed your opportunity to go in at noon. You could make the 5 o'clock.
Oh, I'm probably not good to do broad daylight anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
5 o'clock it'd be
is
dark
when-
Yeah, it would be really dark.
And
I think my pillars have like moved over where this is. This is
Like you're like, this isn't really, because this is actually you're in the preserving of moral principles.
yeah,
and all
yeah.
that. You're
We're,
like, no,
by
no,
doing
because
this, we're
those guys are
saving
evil
the
as
good
shit.
in humanity. Yeah.
I think this is a good way to get killed.
It might be, but it's not
And
what
that's
this
why
is
I
all
have a
about.
shotgun.
And that's why I have 3
Well-
other people I can play later. 4.
we need to.
You made up more characters.
I think we need to
I
help
think all
with
my
the other
sources of
cops.
stability are potentials.
You what?
They won't move on the 14th precinct unless there's something concrete. We don't have anything concrete.
But if we break in and illegally obtain that, what is
hands off.
concrete?
We're talking about 25.
Oh, yeah, I
Breaking in
don't know.
illegally obtaining stuff can
So-
be instantly made legal by, oh yes, I found it.
So if you
Just
guys,
as easy as it goes, oh yes, that notebook never exists.
so if you guys are talking about breaking into stuff, why not break into the detective's house to work and get that notebook?
I also
How do we know it's there?
Well, how do we know it's not?
Keep in mind, the guy you're looking at isn't a detective.
He's a
He's the
captain.
captain.
He's like, how you guys keep saying that?
Probably has a family too.
You're gonna, this is out of game.
You mean
just get
he
to
had a
murder them all.
family.
My character
Burn
would never
that
say
shit
that,
to the-
but I'm just saying.
Burn that
hold
shit to
them
the ground.
hostage.
Just Molotov
Yeah.
cocktail everything. I can make them.
Shouldn't take dirty money
If
from
you want to burn
politics if you don't want your
something,
family
burn
to die.
the captain's house down.
I can make Molotov cocktails for days.
You know what though? Because he is probably thinking himself high and mighty because he's on the take, he might not expect anyone to do something like that.
I think
But why would he?
I don't think anybody would expect that. Like I don't expect anybody to
Like,
bust into my
just
home.
like
Like
that kind of a
that was a
guy, like,
possibility,
this
maybe.
is
But
That's what
Yeah,
they said about
yeah,
the
yeah,
Spanish
yeah.
Inquisition.
nobody expects that.
Like, I can
Honestly,
see
though,
that.
if
Yeah, I can
if
see
we all go to the
something
Juju
in his
House
profile.
at 5 o'clock,
I just don't think we should be splitting up for something like that. We should all be around.
yeah.
Right. So there's the pawn shop that we ripped
No,
the
you
door
guys are
off
gonna
of.
bust into the Juju House.
No,
the
no,
pawn
that's what I
shop's
mean.
not gonna
But
do us
if,
any
no,
good.
no. I'm talking about having people nearby though.
We could. Half
Oh,
you guys
I
could
don't
do
know,
it.
all
instead of
of
us
us-
standing all
yeah,
on the floor like
That's what
bunch
exactly.
of white dudes.
This place
like,
is
"Hey,
small. We're all just gonna
what's
barrel
going on
into
here,
this
guys?"
tiny
Yeah.
room.
Yeah.
Half of us could hang out in the
That's
pawn
what
shop
I'm
that we
saying.
broke into.
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
I wish we had
Do you have a
cell
rifle?
phones.
I'm gonna say
God, I wish we had cell phones.
let's do this.
Okay.
We got
Wait a minute, now he is
Got
on
like 20
board.
minutes.
with
Alright,
this.
alright,
I don't want.
I like where this
I
is
don't
going.
want-
Let's play this out.
You head to
Stop.
Juju House.
I
Okay,
think going
this
to
is
the
gonna be
cotton
Declan
club
picks the lock without
would
a
be
problem,
Much better.
and you guys duck inside. And you all decide to go in because, frankly,
What?
the pawn shop is not that warm.
Okay, right.
All
That's
right.
why we decided to all go in.
Let's just
It's,
toss this
you know,
joint.
3 degrees out. It's honking cold.
You're just man.
You guys get in. You start looking around.
Oh boy.
Who wants to spend a point of evidence collection?
I'll spend 0.
I've already
Awesome.
spent mine. I don't have any
I'll
more.
spend one.
You spend 1.
I'm keeping
Looking around, you find that there's an unstable spot in the rug in the middle of the floor.
We didn't
Okay.
notice that walking in.
You
there?
did not.
We're stupid.
And you roll the rug up, and you find there's a trap door underneath the rug.
We knew it.
Damn it, I didn't think it would be right in the main area where
Middle of the room
walked,
is a
though.
trap door.
Maybe we just all kind of
All right.
scooted around it the first time.
I like that John just got sick of us talking about it.
He's like, you know what? You guys just
We
find
spent-
this damn thing.
Let us you find this room.
And
Just
you
go
guys
in it.
head down the stairs.
Alright, we're in.
I think one of us with a sword cane should stay at the top.
Let me get a marching order.
I'll first.
Okay.
I'll go second behind that.
All right.
Gun drawn.
Sure.
I'll go third.
All right. So you head down the stairs. The bottom of the stairs. There's a door on the right.
Okay.
There's a padlock
securing the door on the right.
Yeah.
Padlock
There's
looks
that.
exactly like the kind of lock that key around Silas's
Damn
neck
it.
would open.
I knew it wasn't the front.
Or the butt of a shotgun.
Or my.
Or your
Can't you just
lockpick.
break
Lock-
us?
Oh, that's right. We have lockpicks.
Can you pick it?
I will try to pick the lock.
Alright, you successfully pick the lock.
Come on, Jonas. You know he's leading us to our death. It's happening like
Do you want me to spend the point?
It
of,
happens.
No,
It works,
you don't
it
even need to
works.
spend a point.
Okay.
You don't even need to
You open
spend
up the
point,
door.
because
The door was oak and reinforced with iron bars
Wow.
going across it.
Yeah. Okay.
Alright, you went
And it
down
closes behind you.
probably 20 feet below ground level.
Wow.
Can
To get
Samus
in here.
stay up above? And
Where,
be
you,
our-
where are
do
you,
wanna
Samus?
stay
You coming
above?
down?
I'm assuming
Yeah.
everybody's
Everybody,
coming down.
Like,
We're all
just
going
I
down.
thought it,
We're
he was the only one
I've
that
got
said
a
wanted to
watch.
stay
I'm watching the
upstairs.
time.
Sure.
We are so
You guys get down there.
dumbest people ever.
And
I thought.
as you're heading down the stairs, there's all of these symbols cut into the stonework along the stairwell.
I don't look at him.
Smart.
Mustafa,
I examine the
you
shit out of
recognize those symbols as being Kikuyu tribal symbols,
Oh.
Kikuyu, and they are symbols
KYK.
Kikuyu.
Maybe this is a good time to tell you that Meryl was supposed to be the princess of that tribe.
And they are symbols that represent evil, and in fact, revel in evil.
I just
And there's a kerosene lantern
I just remember when I
uh,
heard it.
hanging in the corridor, but it's not currently lit.
Conveniently
I'll light it.
available to
Alright.
place down.
Awesome.
Margaret, I don't believe in hitting women, but damn it. You could have told us these things earlier. No, I'm
It
just
didn't
kidding.
even occur
When
to
someone
me until I
asks
heard the
if
name.
you're God,
It didn't even occur to me until I heard the name.
You enter, you see a chamber, you open the door,
Mhm.
and there's a chamber beyond. It's pitch black,
Oh boy.
but you're holding up the torch, or the lantern, so you can look in. And if you look at the map that I've put out there,
Oh.
you can see
Hoarding it.
that there's a chamber.
Oh. Wow.
Okay.
And the chamber is, the ceiling's about 15 foot high.
Okay.
All the surfaces are stone,
Okay.
carefully carved. And there's a lot more sigils carved into the stonework all along the walls here.
Okay.
If anyone wants to spend a mythos point, they can.
I don't have one, but
Sure.
I'd like
I'm
to copy some.
spending?
mytholess.
I'll spend.
All right, Sully, you recognize that those symbols are representative of the great old ones. Whoever was down here performing, you'd guess, some kind of ritual, was probably invoking the great old ones in the process based upon these carvings.
Can I write some of these down while we're looking or no?
You're not sure that's the best idea ever, but you certainly can.
What did you just say?
You could take a rubbing if you'd like.
I was about to say it.
Sure.
I'll
All right.
do it.
Like I said,
you might as
then
well
stare
let
at
me
it.
do it.
Constant.
Let me do it. Don't
so
do it.
the room is, I'm looking at the scale here, it looks like it's about 25 feet long, probably about 15,
This
20
is
feet
very
wide.
bad.
And then you see that there is a curtain on the far wall, and there's also a pit.
Mm.
Well, what you there's a pit that has a large stone block over it, circular block, and there's a big winch that looks like it could work.
Let's just
to
open
open
that
it.
curtain first.
Jerry Pickman's model. I just
Yeah.
feel like this is exactly that.
So there's you got this,
Yeah.
and this pit, based on the big stone block that's over the pit, that stone's probably about 12 feet across.
Okay.
So you think just working this winch is going to be pretty hard if you want to lift that up. Like I said, there's a curtained
I
off
want to do
area.
the curtain. I want to open the curtain area.
So you're walking over to the curtained area by yourself.
I'll go with
Yeah.
So the two of you head over to the
Thank you.
curtained area,
Curtain
and you're
area.
going to the curtained area.
I'm gonna start working a winch.
You're starting to work the winch.
I've drawn my sword cane.
All right.
I'll help work the winch too.
All right. So
Oh
the two
my
of you
God,
guys start
this is
working the
so-
winch,
And everyone dies.
and
Keep it going.
the three of you start walking over to the curtained area.
Oh boy.
You pull aside the curtain.
And then what are you, John? What?
Pull aside the curtain,
Yeah.
And I
No.
need the 4 of you
Oh, boy.
to give me stability checks.
Okay.
So you want to spend points on this, right?
That is your prerogative.
So
You
remember,
need to tell
you
me if you're
spend
going
it,
to.
It also
Okay.
reduces
Which
your
I will
stability.
If you spend it and you
The
and
4 of
whiff
you
it,
who are
you're
not working the
taking more.
winch.
Yeah,
You know
that's
what I'm
the
saying?
sacrifice.
Let's say you spend it, you spend 1 and you fail it, and it let's say it takes 3. You're now losing 4 stability at 1 go.
I'm gonna
That's
spend a
the
point.
But not
All right.
forever,
No, you can get stability back.
So
unless he says we don't.
I'm gonna spend.
We have to escape New
2.
York.
Okay.
Alright, I'm gonna spend.
Stability.
So I got a 7.
All right.
I'm gonna spend 3 stability.
Okay.
Please be good.
Usually the difficulty is 4, just so
Right.
you know.
So you're surprisingly okay with
I
whatever.
get 6.
Okay.
And also, I have a sense of trouble. I feel like maybe that's the thing I should.
Are you doing? I think that's
If
like
you-
a trigger.
you
isn't
sense
it?
a lot of
just
trouble.
wait-
Yeah, I think that would be a
For
trigger.
now.
We all know that this is bad. I mean, we know
I
it
got
out
a
of
5
gate.
on sense trouble.
All right. Yeah. You didn't even need to roll. You sense trouble.
Yeah, I mean.
All
come
right.
on.
So anybody get below 4?
I did.
Okay. You're gonna lose 2 stability
Should've spent that stability.
and a point of sanity.
Wow.
Ooh.
Because
back here.
when you pull the curtain aside, you see this small alcove. It's about 6 foot square.
Okay.
And standing in the alcove, you
boy.
see 4 people.
What?
Except, well, people don't usually have gray skin, and they don't usually have organs hanging out of the inside of their bodies, and their eyes aren't usually white. And most people you've met breathe.
Okay. Sure. I mean,
They're just
I'm a
standing
doctor.
there,
They're standing there?
looking at you, and as soon as you move the curtain aside, they turn and start reaching their arms out and reaching for you and stepping towards you, and they let out this hideous moan as if they're in agony and starving and reaching for you. Just 1 second. The 2 of you are lifting this huge rock
Shut the curtain.
and sliding it out of the way.
That's the best.
And as you do
Okay.
that, just as it lifts off the ground and starts to slide to the side, you hear this ululating voice, this chorus of voices start moaning in unholy harmony. You think there's 40 or 50 voices just wailing and singing. And go ahead and give me a stability check, both of you, and tell me if you're
Oh, thank
spending
God.
points.
Yeah, I'm gonna spend a
I'll
point.
spend 1 point also.
I got a 6.
I got a 6 also.
All right. Apparently, neither of you were affected
So
by
used
this
to this shit
terror.
by now.
But you see, when you look down, this. It's worm-like shape, probably 30 or 40 feet long, in this pit that's probably
I don't see it.
about
I'm so
50
excited.
feet deep,
It's a human
and it's
centipede.
completely covered in human faces.
Just faces or
Nope.
bodies?
Just
Put it back.
faces.
Nope.
I wanted to go to the Cotton Club.
Don't worry, we're going there next, and I'm drinking a lot.
Well, we could use the lantern and burn them.
Behind the zombies,
Oh, on the curtain that we just probably closed.
well, before you closed the curtain,
Yeah.
it's worth noting
Okay.
that up against the back wall, there was a cloak hanging there, and that cloak was covered in feathers. And you saw a pair of gloves hanging right next to it, and the gloves looked like they had long claws mounted on them. And there's also this big mask hanging from another hook, and that mask looks like it's designed to be worn atop the head and has multiple faces
Like, honestly,
on top
could
of
be
it.
used in a ritual or something.
And
I'm not gonna lie,
and you
guys,
see
I'm
a
really
big
afraid.
copper bowl, a carved scepter,
Ew.
and a chest
Oh, one in that chest.
as well
How
in
do we
there.
stock these things?
So
Drawer.
we got the worm, we got the zombies, and we got 10 minutes left. So I think this is a good place to stop.
Right.
Next
I
time,
hate you so bad right now.
next time the Muslim wants to go drinking, you should fucking listen.
And he's always the one that's like the crazy one. He's like, let's just go to the cotton club. We're like, no, let's open this crank and go down the basement. We're only gonna need an hour. How
Thank
much
you.
time has passed, by the way?
That was probably about
Time has
15
stopped.
minutes,
So
but
45
About
minutes before he
45
comes back.
minutes before this
Yeah.
guy comes down.
yeah.
That's my character's more worried about the time than
Yeah.
anything else.
That's
About
what I
any
said,
of
that's
that.
Honestly, your character might be a little more
No,
worried
yeah,
about
it's-
He's
it.
like, nope, it's just time. Nope.
No, I mean
He's
like
still
denial
trying,
worry.
He's
I'm
still
not worried
trying
about
to rationalize
Yeah,
everything.
no,
I know.
I'm just gonna look at my
I
clock and
remember.
none of this is actually happening.
I
That's what
remember
I'm
when
saying.
I was like that. Or my character was
You
like
wake
that.
up, you're still in the tub.
Can somebody flag Josh to stop the
Oh, yeah.
stream?
I think
Because
he would.
Thanks
we
for
are
playing.
stopping a few minutes early. Thank you to anyone that's
There was some
another
people
map.
that
been
were
paying
making
attention to
comments.
this, and we appreciate that. Yeah, that's a natural breaking point because this next scene's going to take a little more than 10 minutes to get
No.
through.
I don't even.
I run up the stairs.
Easy for me. I'm right behind you.
I don't think it takes
I mean,
more than
how
10
are we
minutes to
gonna
kill him.
get these things killed? Well, they're dead-ish anyway.
We should put him in the pit and then light the whole thing on fire.
I'll just use my medicine on them. It's just
Just heal
I've got
them.
so much gauze.
Yeah.
I'm sure that'll fix
Then
everything.
now they're mummies. Just keep adding gauze
are
until
they
they're mummies.
mummies?
No, they're
I
daddies.
need that for some. Shut up. I need mummy dust for something.
What?
Yeah.
You're crazy.